Just because it's my birthday doesn't mean that I'm not going to get up and do a stream. Just because it's my birthday doesn't mean that I don't have to get up and grind. Just because it's my birthday doesn't mean that I could get up and sit on the couch this morning, right? Because a fascist lifted today. The reactionaries don't care that it's my birthday, right? They're out there training anyways. So we got to be here training harder.
Want me to read you what David Goggins sent me on my birthday? He's an awesome human being.
He's amazing.
Because there's not a lot of those out there.
I love you.
There's not a lot of those out there. This day, 54 years ago, you took your first breath. When taking that first breath, it made you eligible to die. I hope you're not enjoying your day by sitting on the fucking couch with your feet up. Hopefully you're out there somewhere suffering, talking to that inner bitch. See, Joe? The inner bitch loves motherfuckers' birthdays. Why? Because it makes you an even bigger bitch. Because we feel it's our special fucking day. So we can just chill the fuck out. Most people wake up to just exist on this planet. So, Joe, if you haven't gotten the fuck after it yet, maybe you should. 5 exclamation points.
I'm obsessed
Ronald
with him.
Reagan fashioned his political career and his presidency.
5 exclamation points. Goggins out. 6 exclamation points.
I love him. I listened to his book like 3-4 times.
That's the greatest birthday messages I've ever gotten.
Really.
Oh, whoever animated that is awesome. I love that freaking clip. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Thank you, Cade. Thank you, Louie. Good to see you in the chat. Hope I get to see you in real life soon. Put my shirt back on. Thank you, everyone, for the birthday wishes. Like I said, just another day to get better, smarter, faster, stronger than the reactionaries. Just another day to educate people about Marxism, huh? What's up, man? What's up, H. Hernandez 007? First time chatter. Glad to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoy your first time in the Midwestern Marx stream. Thank you to everyone saying happy birthday. Really appreciate it. As I said, though, just because it's my birthday doesn't mean we can rest on our laurels. It's time to get after it. It's time to do a stream. I feel really good because I've been eating super healthy lately. It's giving me more energy and vitality for life, I think, which wish I would have figured that out earlier in my life, but I really like chocolate. Well, I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do a good birthday stream. I'm going to do this stream. We'll talk politics, Marxism. I want to discuss the gaming industry some. I did a little bit of research about the history of microtransactions, the history of video games, just being affected by capitalism, being influenced by capitalism. And then later today, I'll do another stream on the Midwestern Marx gaming channel, or on the gaming channel, streaming Final Fantasy X. That'll also be on Twitch and Eddie Lagersmith Gaming, which I just put a link to in the chat. So yeah, like I said, 2 streams today, not resting on our laurels, just because it's my birthday. Also, my hair has gotten to the point where I had to break out the bandanas. I'm growing my hair out for the upcoming wrestling tournament at the end of April, wrestling at the U.S. Open. Gonna make a world team, and I'm going to run around with that American flag on my back that they give you when you win the Olympics or win the world championships. And I'm going to flex, and I'm going to get a hammer and sickle right here and make a big statement for socialism in the wrestling community. So that's what I've been up to. And that's why I can't rest, even though it's my birthday today. Yeah. Let's go, birthday comrade. Thank you, Jacob. And that video you sent me, Jacob, we'll react to that today. That's exactly the kind of video I'm looking for today. Little PragerU, Ronald Reagan nonsense. I can only imagine I can only imagine how stupid this shit is. Sorry, there's a Christian song called I Can Only Imagine. I immediately started singing it when I said the words I can only imagine. That's how much my parents beat the Christian radio station into my head as a child. But that's all right. There's some good Christian songs. I got a rainbow hammer and sickle on my forearm. Hell yeah. I've seen that. I have one on my hip, not a rainbow one, just a stick and poke. You have some of the coolest tattoos, Louis. I got one on my hip and it's cool. I like it, but it's like I got it on my hip so that nobody could see it and I wouldn't like lose my job or whatever. But the older I get, the more I'm like, screw it. I should just get it on the bicep. We'll see though. Probably not a great career move, but neither is being a communist. So I guess we already screwed up in that realm. Happy birthday, Eddie. Happy birthday, RB. I just did that thing where someone tells you happy birthday and then you say you too. Thank you, ARB is what I meant. Granted, I may be wrong, but I haven't read Carlos's new book, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about what. Hey, Eddie, have you recently been reading Lacerdo or Abstract Universalism and see some similarities between this and the concept of the purity fetish? Thoughts? Yeah, I don't know Lacerdo's abstract universalism theory perfectly, but just like I think I have an idea of what it is just based on the name of it, abstract universalism, and very similar to the purity fetish. And ultimately what these are forms of idealism, right? Because Marxism is ultimately materialism. It's dialectical and historical materialism, but it's the core of Marxism is materialism. Using our senses, our material bodies to interpret the world around us, using the scientific method, using testing, performing experiments and tests of the real world, and writing down our observations of the real world that we make with our senses so that we can interpret the real world with our minds, right? And in doing so, it's possible to stray into idealism, to make stuff up in your mind that is not confirmed by the material, that's not confirmed by the real world. And ultimately that's what purity fetishism is, or as you said, abstract universalism, when people make abstractions from the concrete and then try to universalize them without proof that is a universally applicable concept, without material proof. Similar thing with the purity fetish. People look abstract from what they see in the real world, the existing forms of socialism that exist. They abstract from that and then say, well, that I read on CNN and Fox News that Cuba is a dictatorship, so I'm not going to support Cuba. Or, working class people, the MSNBC told me that they're all Trump supporters and they're all fascists, so I can't talk to any working class people. They're too impure, right? We can only talk to people as leftists who share our views and share our worldview, right? It's completely useless. You're not going to get anywhere with it. And which is why it's ultimately a form of idealism, right? It's so I think it's a little different. I think what Lacerdo probably means by abstract universalism is he's people taking concepts and then trying to apply them universally and not realizing that everything's in a constant state of change. But I would have to read more about Lacerdo's exact concept to give you an answer that I can be like, put my stamp of approval on it. What I just said was correct. Because I could be misinterpreting Lacerdo's theory a little bit. Hey, Ware Pilgrim, welcome to the chat, comrade. Hey, Terry. The Davey, thank you so much. Huge $10 super chat. Birthday chat right here. Gold super chat. Hey, Eddie, happy birthday. Love Midwestern Marks. Have you by any chance seen Hillary Clinton's ad for a class at Columbia called Inside the Situation Room? Cringe to the max. I have not seen that the day B. Thank you so much for the financial support, supporting our project and all our print works and stuff like that. Sounds like a sorry if you guys, I was entering the Hillary Clinton video. I was gonna say sounds like an interesting video that we should watch, and then this is what popped up on my screen that distracted me. Look at this more plates, more dates video here with the guy like injecting his underwear. Like what the Hillary Clinton, the situation room ad. Hillary Clinton did something with one of those bread tubers recently, like ContraPoints or whatever. One of those bread tubers that people are leftists on Twitter are always saying they're one of the good ones. They're one of the revolutionary pro-working class ones. Look at this video that they did with Hillary Clinton. Oh, yeah, very, very revolutionary ContraPoints. Thank you so much, the Davey. Really appreciate that. What a great birthday gift. ContraFed. Yeah, I remember I made a video talking about how she was just completely distorting revolutionary theory, completely distorting Marxism, slandering modern China without understanding it, slandering all existing kinds of socialism. And people were mad at me for critiquing her, being like, don't, this is leftist infighting. Don't critique another leftist. Like, this isn't a leftist or a socialist. This is like a theater performer with millions of views who has been found to be connected to the British State Department, or at least have loose ties to the British State Department, having their content boosted by social media oligarchs in the algorithm, distorting Marxism to millions of people and creating controlled opposition, creating what Gabriel Rockhill, I believe, calls a compatible left or radical reformers. So everyone with the radical revolutionary energy who falls into ContraPoints gets diverted to liberalism. Oh, yeah, I'm a radical. I'm a revolutionary. That's why we have to vote for the Democrats to stop Trump. And, it never works, and we never take out capitalism. I would love some examples of where Marxism has succeeded. Well, boy, have you found the right channel, my friend. This is the channel for you. Look at our video on the construction of modern China. Look at our video, Is China Marxist? Watch any of our content on Cuba, especially the stuff with Carlos. One of the founders of this website, Midwestern Marx, is a Cuban immigrant whose family lived under Marxism and socialism in Cuba. And he supports Marxism, socialism, communism in the U.S. because when his mother got sick when he was growing up, all the anti-communists in Miami were telling him, go to Cuba and get the operation for free. Right? His mom couldn't afford healthcare in the U.S., but in Marxist socialist Cuba, she could, because they provide basic things like shelter, healthcare, and other things that you need to survive. Whereas in the U.S., we ration those things by your wallet. Only the people with the most money get those. And under capitalism, the people with the most money are shareholders who don't actually work or contribute to society. Happy birthday, handsome. Thank you, Blueberry Onions. Thank you. Hi, Tatiana. Welcome back. Happy birthday wishes. Thank you, SG. Appreciate it. Appreciate the financial support always, especially on my birthday, because it feels personal, like you're giving me a real birthday gift or something. Solidarity, much love. Holy cow, they're flowing in today. I kind of thought there may be generous people today because it's my birthday. Don't feel like you have to give your money to me because it's my birthday, but we appreciate all of it. This will all go towards more print projects, more Midwestern Marx projects, more education. I always feel like I gotta say thank you profusely when people do this. So much love. Know that you have my eternal gratitude and thanks for funding our project. Know that our project would be impossible without you. So you're not just a fan of Midwestern Marx. You're our comrade. You're a supporter. You are part of Midwestern Marx. You're part of the revolutionary movement. Yeah. End rant about how much I appreciate y'all. Hi, Eddie. Hey, Pedamio. Happy B-Day, you're wearing the Waka drip, LOL. I am. And I'll definitely wear this tonight for the Final Fantasy X stream that we're going to do if you're around. I'm going to be way more. I was rewatching the Final Fantasy X streams. I'm like, I've been too tired when I film these. I got to film these when I'm more high energy. So, yeah. Happy birthday, sir. Love your work. Any films or shows that you consider class conscious or Marxist adjacent? Breaking Bad's a close example, in my opinion. Absolutely. I mean, there's that meme. It's like Breaking Bad if it happened in Canada, right? I got diagnosed with cancer. Better go to the doctor and get chemotherapy. The end. That's the end. No Breaking Bad with universal health care. And actually, what's weird is teachers have some of the best healthcare in America, in the country, right? You get it through the state. You get it like publicly funded, essentially. So it's better than a lot of other occupations. But even then, if you get a long-term illness, like cancer in the show Breaking Bad, or I was talking about dementia and Alzheimer's recently. That stuff isn't covered, or they'll kick you off, or you'll get laid off of your job and then lose your health care because it's attached to your job. And you're basically on your own to pay for this absurdly expensive treatment. It's terrible. And I mean, Alzheimer's and dementia are worse because it's older people who like literally can't work. Their like brains are deteriorating on them because they've worked and contributed to society so much. And then at the end of their life, society just kicks them to the curb. Doesn't give them the memory care they need because it's too expensive. But Marxist shows, there's The Leader. It's a Chinese, basically cartoon, like anime style cartoon about the life of Karl Marx. That's actually really, really well made and really fun to watch. Perfect timing. Just not driving from Sauk to Milwaukee, so I can listen. Huh? Are you from Sauk Prairie? Duck hash browns? Have we discussed that before? That's a 2.5-hour drive from Sauk Prairie to Milwaukee. Exactly. Glad we could have good timing. What are some other good Marxist shows? The Leader. I've really been liking Final Fantasy 12. I've been playing the crap out, like putting too much time into that, y'all. It's bad, actually, how much time I've been putting into Final Fantasy 12. I should be working more. But that is extremely anti-imperialist and slightly anti-capitalist. What else do we got? Obviously, Squid Game. What was the other one on Netflix recently out of South Korea? Parasite. Parasite is an amazing movie. There's a lot of good stuff coming out of South Korea now, which go figure. You know, the U.S. invades Korea, kills 20% of the population, sets up a fascist dictatorship, occupies half the peninsula, and then tries to boost their capitalist class and uses, basically sets up a puppet dictatorship to enforce capitalism. Of course, the economic conditions are really crap now, and we're getting a lot of media coming out of Korea and South Korea that is anti-capitalist. Because the base of society, production, the capitalist system, in our case, creates the superstructure, creates the art and culture. Thank you so much for this $1 free of Avia. Nice owl profile picture. Akira is also a good anti-capitalist. Oh, man, I almost watched Akira the other day. That's like the last anime that was hand-drawn, right? I had it like pulled up to watch, and I didn't get around to it. But I'll have to watch that. Reds is a good movie about John Reed's time in the Bolshevik Revolution, despite being made by liberals. That's interesting. John Reed's book was one of the first things I ever read about socialism. 10 Days That Shook the World, an American journalist who was there for the October Revolution and wrote what he saw. Very, very interesting stuff. And you see that, there's so many interesting scenes in that book where John Reed is talking about the workers and these bourgeois, rich, anti-revolutionary reactionaries are like talking down to the workers and like lecturing them, right? The same way that they do to us. Oh, you support socialism? You're a bad person. Don't you know that slave owners fled Cuba and they don't like socialism? Why don't you listen to those slave owners? You're a bad person if you don't adopt the politics of the slave owners who got their asses kicked by Che Guevara and Fidel. It's like, I don't care. But either way, that's always that condescending sort of talking down. Oh, you stupid workers. You just don't get it. You're not an enlightened upper middle class liberal like me. So John Reed is saying that, John Reed talks about this scene, and it's been forever since I read that book, but basically someone's talking down to the workers like, no, we can't have a revolution. We need reform. This is too much. You guys are out of control. We should do this. And the workers are like, well, Lenin says this. Lenin says the proletariat's supposed to rise up and overthrow the government and make a proletarian state. And the people keep talking down to him. Yeah, that's not, Lenin's stupid. I talk down to Lenin, talk down to you. You guys got it all wrong. Only us, the enlightened bourgeoisie, can lead society, can create the politics. And the workers is like, no, that's not true. Lenin says this. Lenin says the workers can seize the politics. And the workers do. The workers seize the state. The workers win. The Bolsheviks are not only able to the Bolsheviks are able to lead the revolutionary movement and take power from the reformist parties like the Mensheviks, who would have allowed capitalism to continue on, because they had the support of the working class. They had the support of a lot of the troops who were tired of fighting in imperialist wars, and they had the support of the industrial workers and a whole bunch of the peasants, the Worker-Peasant Alliance, right? So at that point, when the point of me saying all of this, when the revolution kicks off, the condescending words of the bourgeoisie become useless and meaningless, right? They become completely powerless. You can lecture us all we want, right? We're the workers. We have the power. We can shut down the whole economy, right? So because the workers sided with the Bolsheviks, the liberals and the Mensheviks could walk around going, oh, those workers are so stupid. They're just not as smart as us. They're not as refined as us. It didn't matter. The workers were still the revolutionary class. They still won the revolution because of their place within the economy materially, right? So these condescending ass liberals who tell us that revolution's impossible, or that the working class, is just inherently reactionary and dumb and not as smart as the upper class reformists, right? When revolution actually comes, their words become meaningless and the power is in the hands of the workers, which is why we shouldn't tailor our message to angry liberals on Twitter, which is why we shouldn't tailor our message to condescending upper middle class academics or students or, social democratic reformists. We should tailor our message as a revolutionary communist message to the workers, because even though the liberals like to talk down on the working class, it is ultimately the revolutionary class. Happy birthday, Eddie. You're a big help to many. Thank you, Lane. Really appreciate it. Happy birthday. Thank you, Skeleton. Thank you for all the birthday wishes, everybody. Yeah, but what about the fascists? Have you considered their feelings? Checkmate, authoritarian commie. Good point, Christopher Romero. I forgot to consider their feelings. Let's watch this Inside the Situation Room first. We're 23 minutes in. I haven't reacted to anything yet. This Hillary Clinton advertisement for her new show looks quite interesting.
Oh my God.
What is it?
It's Hillary Clinton. She's running.
What?
What? Hillary's running again?
I know, I heard that's so crazy. This is wild. She's running again.
Here I am.
Hillary, you're running again.
Well, I sure am, Karen. I just got here early for the new class we're teaching together on foreign policy decision making.
Classes don't start until September.
Yeah, but I wanted to be prepared, Karen. When it comes to crisis situations, you've always got.
Is this an SNL skit? Who sent me an SNL skit and told me it was a real ad? Hillary Clinton's teaching a foreign policy class? Is she going to be like, first, guys, if you decide to overthrow the country of Libya, make sure that you have some exit strategy, right? Because what we did was we had no exit strategy. They asked me about it, and I just said, we came, we saw, he died, about Gaddafi. And, you know, that was good and all, but there was no government to take over after Gaddafi. So the country was left without a central government, turned to total chaos and civil war. It deteriorated into a situation of absolute poverty after being one of the most prosperous and wealthiest countries in all of Africa, who wanted to create a Central African bank aimed at development. And we turned it into a country where there's an open-air slave market because there's no regulation. All the economic prosperity destroyed. So, you know, lesson one, make sure you don't do that. Hopefully that's the first Hillary Clinton foreign policy class. And not only is this an SNL skit in that we have Hillary Clinton teaching foreign policy to young, impressionable minds, which is, you know, like we pretty much live in hell at this point. Like that's total upside down world. You might as well have her co-teach that class with George Bush and Henry Kissinger. But then she's doing it with a lady named Karen. Karen and Hillary Clinton's foreign policy class. I would not make it through 2 minutes in that class without attacking Hillary. She would say something about why the U.S. needs to be so involved in Northern Africa, and I just take off after I shut up, you stupid bitch. You know what you did to the people of Libya? Do you have no remorse for what you've done? She does have no remorse for what she's done. The craziest thing about Hillary Clinton, and this should be a case study, not just in politics, but in psychology, because this is what happens when you have a narcissist, a disgusting, selfish narcissist who only sees what they want, only sees their own interests, and puts themselves up on a platter ahead of everyone, and has killed hundreds of thousands or millions of people, made millions and millions of people's lives worse, and will praise herself as a hero for doing so, and will pretend like she is qualified to teach you about foreign policy as if she isn't a failure by every possible measure. And she'll still come out and do cringy ads like this. Like she still doesn't get it that the public hates her. That she was a notoriously unprecedented, unpopular candidate who nobody liked. One of the only candidates who ran for president and then had their approval rating stay down rather than going back up once they were out of the public eye for a while, because she won't shut up and get out of the public eye because she's a narcissist. And then there's camera crews filming her like she's one of the biggest public figures in America. So you get to watch her flounder around and be a 60-year-old narcissist with nothing better to do than this, but with tons of power and wealth. And it's just freaking wild to watch. It's like watching an SNL skit. Hillary seems like a psychopath. She is. She's a narcissist or a psychopath, right? She doesn't have empathy, and her only thing is her political career. Like that is what drives her as a human being. I mean, this is someone. There are children in chains. There are children in mines, enslaved now in Libya and other places where the U.S. has been involved under Hillary Clinton's watch, because of interventions that she directly oversaw. And now she wants to literally lecture people about foreign policy. That is psychopathic.
To be prepared.
Prepared? I think you're more prepared than anyone to teach this course. Now, what are we going to call it?
Inside the Situation Room.
Yes. And I'll cover the theory of political decision-making and strategy.
Mm-hmm. And I'll cover what it was actually like in the room during the bin Laden raid, the Iran sanctions, the Gaza ceasefire, you name it.
Okay, but are you ready for...
How about Libya? What was it like when they said, hey, Gaddafi's been overthrown? And you went, we came, we saw, he died. And then slavery came back. We came, we saw, slavery came back. How about you talk about that, Hillary?
Whatever questions the students throw at you?
Bring it on. Now, if you'll excuse me, Karen, I've got to run.
Bring it on, Karen. Put me in that class. I know I just said that I would physically attack Hillary Clinton. I would not. I take that back. I would attack her with words. I would print out a stack of papers this big talking about her record and all the people that she's killed. Someone said, don't forget about the Honduras coup. Yes. Don't forget about that. Honduras, which is basically the Colombia of Central America. And Hugo Chavez once called Colombia the Israel of Latin America. So basically, Hillary Clinton wanted this country to remain a reactionary, neoliberal U.S. military imperialist outpost so that they can attack Nicaragua and launch sanctions, enforce sanctions and launch coup attempts over the border into Nicaragua and Central America. Yes, please teach us, Hillary Clinton, how you managed to do this. The world needs more of this, certainly. Forget about all that development, economic development, mutual cooperation, bringing people out of poverty and making their lives better. We need more of this. We need more coups. That's what will make the world a better place. It's like Hillary and her friends have learned the opposite of what they should have from the past few years, but from their perspective, Libya was successful, right? Because Hillary's a psychopath manager of the empire for the capitalist ruling class in America, right? So Libya, Iraq, those countries in which she also voted for, of course, because she's never voted for anything good or done anything good in her life. Those were successes for the ruling class because those countries had their resources pillaged by Western multinationals, right? Those wars allowed Iraq's oil and Libyan resources to be plundered by multinationals and Western bankers who pay speaking engagements and pay campaign donations and pay for things like this for Hillary Clinton and her ilk in the American political system. So from their perspective, from their class perspective, it was a success. Sure, millions of working people died, both Iraqis, Libyan, and American. Sure, there are people in chains in Libya right now creating that wealth for the Wall Street shareholders. But at least they're creating wealth for the Wall Street shareholders. That's all that matters to these people. They don't care how many of us workers are in chains, how many of us have to die for them to make profits, right? And this is why we're not going to convince these people. This is why reformism is stupid. Right? You're never going to convince Hillary Clinton to give us universal health care and stop doing war or whatever. I know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez thinks that she can do that, and her and the squad are going to convince Nancy Pelosi to make America socialist. Not going to happen. These people are psychopaths who know what class they are a part of and they know what class they serve. And the only way to fight them is for us as workers, us as the masses, us as the people sent to fight and die in these wars for accumulation and expansion, to realize what our class interests are and what class we should serve, and not begging this bourgeois ruling class not begging this bourgeois ruling class for things, but organizing and fighting them, struggling against them directly until we get what we demand, not what we ask for. Right? It's class struggle, not class begging for reforms. And with psychopaths like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton going and doing these speaking engagements and doing the Tonight Show and, acting like, oh, they're so silly. These are the good politicians when they're mass murderers. It's a beautiful train wreck as long as she gets to power and isn't causing harm. It is true, right? As long as Hillary doesn't actually get to power. And I feel like she hurts the Democratic Party more than anything and hurts the ruling class more than anything now because she's so notoriously unpopular. Nobody likes this woman. Everybody knows that she is a pathological liar. It's like there's some people you can just see through, and you can, after a while, you get shrewd. And you can tell who's a bullshitter, which is why Obama is such a dangerous and scary politician. Because he was also the one who did Libya and Syria, but that dude could talk like he's your best buddy and like he really cares about you and like he really had an idea for change. When he's, a political establishment, political think tank shill his whole life. Like my mom said she read Michelle Obama's book, and I would just shit on Obama to my mom. I'd be like, he brought slavery back to Libya. This is a piece of human garbage who's made the world a much worse place. And she's like, but Michelle said in her book that, her and Obama were in love and they were looking into each other's eyes. And Michelle said, what are you thinking about Barack? Or I guess Barack was spaced out and he's like, income inequality. And, like, oh, I'm like, Mom, that's a manipulation tactic. That's why Barack and Michelle Obama are so dangerous, because they trick you. They know how to trick you into thinking they care about income inequality while they bomb Libyans and enslave them. Right? Hillary Clinton doesn't have that ability. She can't even make you think she's a good person. Right? Everyone just thought she was trying to get back at Bill Clinton for the Monica Lewinsky thing when she was running for president. She ain't going to be tricking anyone into thinking that her and Bill are dreaming about income inequality. Holy cow, what kind of currency is this? What? Did I just get a $500 super chat? What is this? What is that in dollars? Oh my gosh, I've just never seen the number 500 pop up before in a super chat. If you gave me $500, you are officially the Midwestern Marx direct producer, and you can tell us what to do with our website. Just kidding, obviously, but thank you so much. However much money this actually is in American dollars. Really, 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 really appreciate you supporting us financially. I support anyone. I really appreciate anyone who, gives anything, even a penny, to our project. So it's incredible. Vishwajit sounds Indian, perhaps? This is why I need a lesson in currency. It's rupees, maybe like $8. I am sorry, Lil. Okay, gotcha. Thank you so much. No, do not say sorry. Please do not say sorry. I just had my mind blown by seeing 500, but rupees. All right. Well, add it to the memory bank. I'm getting better at the currency, but I have never gotten a rupee before. Probably because TikTok's banned in India, and I know a lot of our followers find our content through TikTok. But thank you so much, Vishwawit. And thank you for the birthday wish. Can you talk a little bit more about how the working class is always determining class during revolution? What about the bureaucratic technocratic clash, which conspire with the bourgeoisie and our significant population, semi-feudal countries like India? I have a feeling this class has a lot to do with who stays in power, and communist action should also be directed towards them. You're 100% right, Vishwajit. Those classes, which some people call the professional managerial class, there's different names for it. I think the bureaucratic technocratic class is a good way to describe it. It's worth your time to win them towards socialism. It's worth your time to educate them and see if they'll side with the proletariat, right? But that class tends towards opportunism for sure. Like, basically that class as a whole will pick whatever side it looks like is winning the class struggle, right? So the proletariat is the engine, the motor of class struggle, and they're struggling against the capitalist class. And when it looks like the capitalist class is dominant, the technocratic, bureaucratic, managerial class will side with the capitalist. They'll side with the current system, and what looks to not be disrupting and upsetting the system. They want stability. But if it looks like the working class is going to seize power in the class struggle, then it's likely that a lot of them will side with the working class, and post-revolution, there's a need for skilled labor, or technical labor, or administrative labor, all these things. So you need this class to build socialism too, which was one of the major problems in the Soviet Union, East Germany, Venezuela, and it's why they had to have like the Berlin Wall and try and keep people in, because the U.S. would bribe skilled workers. It would bribe engineers and technical workers who knew how to manage industry. Because if they knew they could get those people to flee and leave, that would hurt the socialist economy. That would make socialist economic planning harder. And this has been very successful in Venezuela. This is why Hugo Chavez called Colombia, and I'm writing about this in my Venezuela book. That'll be out probably at the end of this year. Writing a whole chapter on this, how the U.S. bribes skilled workers to leave. But that's why Hugo Chavez calls Colombia the Israel of Latin America. because the U.S. will go through Colombia, all these NGOs. Colombia's got more NGOs than like any other country in Latin America. We'll bribe these skilled workers. Come over here. We'll give you a jobs program, right? So the U.S. presents it as, oh, look, we're bringing jobs to Colombia, right? For Venezuelan immigrants, for people fleeing the socialist regime in Venezuela. And really what it is bribes for people to leave. And then when they leave, the U.S. doesn't give them everything they wanted. You know, a lot of times it's just a lot of these schemes are based on credit. I'm not going to go super in depth because, like I said, I'm writing a book about this, so I should probably save some of the content for the book. But it makes it harder to run like the oil industry. A lot of Venezuela's industries have really been hampered by that. So they've been trying to, you know, build up these skilled laborers, skilled workers, so that the U.S. can't do that to them. And that's like people always, or the Americans mock the backyard furnaces in Mao's China. They're like, oh, the backyard furnaces are why people starved, even though, you know, there were weather conditions where it like didn't rain for a year and all these different other things that caused the famine that had been causing famines in China for years. Well before communism ever got there. But the backyard furnaces were to teach the Chinese peasants how to work with steel, right? Because they didn't know how, because they didn't have steel. They were a peasant agricultural economy. So they got these furnaces, learned how to do steel working, and then it allowed China to jumpstart their industry, right? There are these things that have to be taken into account when building a socialist economy that the imperialists understand. So they'll try and do anything they can to sabotage the socialist economy, similar to the South Korean intelligence agencies paying North Koreans for cowtails, paying tons of money for cowtails, because they knew that meant that the cow was killed or whatever, and it couldn't produce food anymore for the North Korean people, literally trying to starve them out, make economic planning and socialist construction as difficult as possible. AOC burner account got exposed the other day, LOL. Did it really? What happened? I did not see that. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Who is Zaza Demon? Her Twitter account was called Zaza Demon? You guys, this isn't real. You're sending me stuff from Saturday Night Live. It has to be. It has to be. Louis Logics, her comments, Hillary's on Libya. We saw he died, should have disqualified her from anything ever again. A world leader raped and murdered in the street, and she laughed. Nuts. Psychopathic stuff. She laughed, she was pumped about it, and then slavery returned to the country. And their resources were plundered by the West, by the empire. In a world that makes sense, people like that would be disqualified from everything. But we don't live in a world that makes sense. We live in an SNL skit where AOC has a burner account called Zaza Demon. Is this real? It's a conspiracy. All right. Well, if the liberal media is calling it a conspiracy, that means it's probably true, is what I've been learning lately. So, let's see here. New York's Congresswoman AOC allegedly owned a burner account after a mysterious Twitter handle, Zaza Smoko, responded to a tweet, real Nico House in first person. Though the 33-year-old Democrat, Nico House is like a leftist sort of revolutionary content creator type guy who doesn't like shit libs. Revelations VM and Nico House. Tweet about Congressman calling out another person AOC. Well, at least you stood up for a TikTok star. That's hilarious. That is a funny tweet. Lol, and what makes you think that I did anything to support Nazis? You're delusional. Seek help. The account tweeted and then deleted it. Oh, Zaza Demon deleted it. The first person response. Several other retweets of AOC's post by the now deleted Zaza Smoke account. Firm Nico's beliefs that it was the Congresswoman's burner account. Dude, it probably is. It probably is. AOC's just a millennial, dude. She probably was like, I'm going to make a burner account called Zaza Smoker. I have a burner account. I never tweet from it, or I certainly don't go read things that people are saying about me and then fight them because, you know, not a good use of my time. I could be doing revolutionary organizing or literally anything else, which is what AOC should be doing, not arguing with people on Twitter, excusing her funding of Nazis, which she absolutely has supported. AOC has a burner account. I responded to one of her posts, reminding her that she sends money to Nazis, and some random account responded to me speaking in first person as if I attacked them, and that same person deleted the tweets. Bro, it's like an anime character. No way. No way. Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene hopped in. This is UAOC. Zaza Demon is your burner account. That is a disturbing name. Shut up. Shut up. It's not disturbing. What are you, a freaking 18th century priest? It's like a meme. It's like Zaza. Like Zaza means like weed, like marijuana, and like demon. Like, how is that disturbing? That's hilarious that if AOC has a burner account called Zaza Demon. Excited to see an unhinged trans murder, a member of the conservative press, Matt Wall. Dude, what is this? What is she ever talking about? I mean, speaking of American politics being an SNL skit, the fact that we have like a deranged QAnon mom, like a QAnon housewife who, like, her kids, while her kids were at school, she just spent all day on like QAnon forums reading weird conspiracies, and then she became like an actual member of Congress. Like, what an interesting character to have in the American political circus. I think we should keep this like American politics going after the revolution, but like they don't have any power. It's just like a reality TV show where we get to watch all the weird stuff play out like this, because this is hilarious. You are a hateful little freak, and I can't wait till you piss off a trans person that is actually as unhinged as you claim to say they all are. You're gonna be a bigot if you're no longer breathing. Wow, AOC, harsh. I mean, that sounds like something that Matt Walsh says about trans people all the time. So I hate this stuff when the right wingers are like, look what AOC tweeted about me. Like, oh yeah, you anti-cancel culture tough guys. You guys are so tough crying about a tweet. AOC threatened me on Twitter. Like, okay, you just posted like 37 videos about how trans people are weaker than non-trans people or whatever. Well, why don't you just, defend yourself? You can't build this brand off of being a tough guy, being anti-cancel culture, and then every time a liberal comes at you, you start crying about cancel culture. I cannot stand this stuff. AOC Zaza Demon. That's enough of that. Molly McGuire, thank you. Longtime friend of the show, longtime comrade, someone who's constantly supporting our project financially, which I appreciate more than you know. Thank you for the birthday wishes, Molly. Really appreciate that. I really appreciate you. Much love. Thanks to everyone for the birthday wishes. Thanks to everyone for the super chats. The other day, I think we broke our record for super chats. And today we are getting close. We are getting close to breaking that record, I think, with the birthday. So thank you very, very much. Zaza sellout. Yeah, I got it up, Jacob. And I was actually going to go to that real soon. I got you. Also, did you see the ceasefire between Saudi Arabia and Yemen? Really? There was? Okay. Well, I want to talk about that quick. Because I was saying that I thought a ceasefire would follow from China's new deal with Saudi Arabia. I was like, I bet you China will pressure them to end the genocide in Yemen aimed at the Houthis, bringing peace. And look at that. First article I pull up from The Intercept, which has become a much worse source in recent years, but still better than mainstream media. China or to help end the war in China or Yemen. That was not the title I saw earlier. Yemen war ceasefire talks thanks to China. Aha! Isn't that crazy how through the power of Marxism, before I even saw what happened, I knew that China had negotiated this deal or that China had pushed them towards this. I mean, I predicted this on stream like 2 weeks ago. I was like, I bet you now that China has this deal with Saudi Arabia and with Iran, they'll push to end the war in Yemen. Because like the U.S. was always like, oh yeah, Saudi Arabia is doing that. We don't support it. It's bad, but you know, we still got to give them $3 billion in weapons and fuel their jets to bomb Yemen's water sanitation facilities because, you know, they got a lot of oil. We got to do it. Otherwise, they won't give us their oil. Whereas China is pushing for a foreign policy of mutual development and absolute self-determination, complete non-interventionism. So if Saudi Arabia is taking money they make from China and bombing Yemen and, you know, doing it because of the Houthis, doing it because of a specific political group, you know, that's them doing imperialism. That's them controlling the politics of another country. That's them doing warfare and aggression rather than mutual development. So it makes sense that as Saudi Arabia continues to side with China in this global move towards multipolarity away from unipolarity and U.S. dominance, that Saudi Arabia would move away from bombing Yemen. And for those who don't know, this is one of the issues that first got me into politics. It was one of the first things that I wrote about, and like the strategies of the bombing campaigns of the Saudis are just disgusting. Or they were like literally hitting water sanitation facilities to the point where 1/25 of the Yemeni people had cholera, which is a disease where you get diarrhea and poop so much that you become dehydrated and die. Right? So they're saying, let's hit the water sanitation facility so people contract cholera, and then they have less water to hydrate themselves with. So when they get cholera, it's more deadly. That's what's going on. They're like, oh, we got to get the Houthis, and that's what your tax dollars have been going to fund forever. But not with China, not with socialist foreign policy, which the China's foreign policy of complete non-interventionism, socialism and development and mutual development is hope for humanity. This is the way of the future. And like, it's getting to the point where as Americans, like, we need to get on board. Like, it's so obvious that our foreign policy is outdated, that our imperialistic, I'm number one, I get to uphold unipolar dominance and all the other countries that have to listen to me and let me rob them of their resources. That shit is over. That shit is outdated. Nobody wants that shit anymore. And that shit isn't even good. China is growing way faster than us. They have a way better economy than us. They abolished poverty. You know how many people we have living in poverty every day in the U.S.? Because our foreign policy doesn't work. It sucks our people dry of every last tax dollar, right? Our people who are already super exploited takes every last drop of extra money that they have and sends it to neo-Nazis in Ukraine or whatever in wars abroad to try and control resources. Imperialism is no longer beneficial for the working class, right? If you're an opportunist in the American working class, if you want to be an opportunist, you should still support socialism, because imperialism is never going to be in your interest. And, you know, more and more working people in America are starting to realize that. It's just, do they realize there's an alternative possible? The socialist foreign policy. What LGBTQ activists have actually been doing is reducing bullying in our overly violent schools for all of us. But the corporations won't sponsor that because everyone thinks our schools are too violent. Yeah, that's a good point. I like that analysis, Marxist Saw. Marxist Saw, I always like your analysis because you have a grasp on dialectical materialism, a very, very good grasp on dialectical materialism, and that helps you understand every issue. And sometimes, Marxist Saw, if you want to join our Discord server, even $1 Patreon supporters get access to the Discord. Actually, I think the Discord's technically on our link tree. I think it's public. But either way, Marxist Saw every once in a while will run little voice chats where they teach theory to people in the Discord. So grateful that they have done that. love that. I don't know when the last one was. I don't get on the Discord enough, but yeah, freaking amazing comrade. So make sure everyone follow Marxist Saw. And Marxist Saw, you can tell people where to follow you in the chat. Happy birthday, Eddie. Thank you, Don Hammonds. Peace all. Peace, everyone. Much love. Much love. They still blame China's debt trap. The propaganda is so intense. Right. That's what's unfortunate is people don't realize there's an alternative. And that's why it's so important to do like Michael Parenti type work to defend existing socialism, right? And that some people are like, why defend existing socialism when so many people are convinced China bad, USSR bad? Like, because if people think that every existing socialist country has been a failure, then they don't believe there's an alternative, right? They think, oh, well, I guess capitalism's the best we can do, which is not true. Reality has proven the opposite, right? And we shouldn't, and we should argue based on reality. We shouldn't adopt things that are false, things that are untrue because the bourgeois propaganda says so, or because the bourgeois propaganda has been successful. The truth is on our side. On YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, all our Marxist Saw. Thank you for sharing that, Marxist Saw. I'm telling y'all, everyone, follow Marxist Saw. Unbelievable analysis. I learn something new every time they post. Give them a follow. No. What is this? What is this you sent me, Jacob? What is this pain? I feel like Naruto right now, or I feel like I'm going into the pain fight where he's like, you will know pain. Because PragerU is pain. It brings me pain. It hurts. It hurts. It's millions of dollars being pumped into pure lies. It's just a big lie machine. It's like Dennis Prager has got this big machine gun that shoots lies. And he can shoot them at YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and wherever. He just lies, 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 lies. Socialism sucks. Let me rule over you. And when you look at these pampered goofballs like Dennis Prager, who look like they've never done a hard day's work in their life, telling you why they deserve all the wealth and they deserve everything in society and you should just shut up and keep working for them. It's like, this is like feudalism. This is like Marie Antoinette type shit. Like where they're about to guillotine her. And she's like, let them eat cake. She didn't even understand that her people were starving, which they don't actually know. The let them eat cake thing was probably made up or dramatized. I don't know if it's not proven if she actually said that. But either way, like the amount of disconnect between the ruling class and the working class is really apparent in these PragerU videos. I think these videos are mostly for people who have already drank the Kool-Aid. But there's a lot of people who freaking buy into these or are influenced by these because they have good production value, which the Midwestern Marx production value is also on the up and up. Shout out to all our Patreon supporters. Shout out to all your super chats and shout out to AI technology. We've been fully embracing AI technology and it's helping us a lot to compete with the production value of these propaganda outlets that have freaking millions of dollars behind them. Literally, like, how are we supposed to compete with that? Well, AI gives us a way to compete in terms of production value, at least a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. Let's listen to what these fools have to say about Ronald Reagan after I read this amazing $20 super chat from Duck Hash Browns. Holy cow. Thank you so much, Duck Hash Browns. Also a YouTube member, as you can see by that little symbol right there. YouTube members get emotes. They get the Journal of American Socialist Studies too. They'll get Carlos's book, Marxism and the Purity Fetish, very soon. It's similar to being a Patreon supporter, but Duck Hash Browns is a constant supporter of what we do here. So big shout out to them and everything they do. Great comrade. The revolution won't be televised, but it's weird to think. It'll probably be live streamed on TikTok, LOL. P.S. Happy birthday. Thank you, Duck Hash Browns. You're right. That's exactly it, right? These means of communication exist. They've come about due to advancements in technology, advancements in production. And like our buddy Ramiro says, with your cell phone, he's like, everybody's basically got a movie studio, right? Everyone's got a camera that you can take videos, you can take audio, you can edit. And then you can upload it all from your cell phone, which, he basically does his amazing show Unmasking Imperialism from like a cell phone. So with AI technology, or with that technology making it easier to reach people and communicate with people all over the world, and AI technology making it easier to produce and cheaper to produce high quality content, like the AI video editing software we have is nuts, y'all. It's nuts. Shout out to Descript, whoever the heck programmed that. But yeah, we have to embrace technology and use it to take the capitalists down, because capitalism advances technology in that way, gives us new tools to attack the capitalists with, and it digs its own grave. Every economic system is its own gravedigger. That's a big part of Marxism. It sows the seeds of its own destruction. So yeah. Hey, Dust, happy Easter. Thank you again, Duck Cash Bones. All right. That was a good little tangent. Let's get into it, though.
Ronald Reagan fashioned his political career and his presidency around three things: lower taxes, smaller government, strong defense. In doing so,
This is Scott Walker. Holy cow, you guys are sending me the worst videos today. Yeah, the worst videos, but also maybe the best videos to react to. This is my least favorite person in politics. I hate this man more than I hate Hillary Clinton. I look at him with his stupid mouth open. I hope bugs fly in your mouth, you lying puppet of the Koch brothers who cut my dad's salary, promised to fix the debt in Wisconsin by cutting all the teachers' salaries and busting their unions before turning around and giving billions of dollars in corporate subsidies. How's that for small government, you moron? To Foxconn, this giant multinational corporation, which brought no jobs to Wisconsin. And now guess what Wisconsin's debt is at? It's like $20 billion. Good job fixing the debt, Scott Walker, you piece of human garbage. This is the Koch brothers' favorite. If you read what the Koch brothers wrote about influencing politics and trying to control our government, the Koch brothers are these big oil oligarchs, big oil family. Scott Walker was their favorite. He was their favorite. He was like, Scott doesn't even have a mind of his own. Scott will just say whatever we want him to say. The dude's literally a puppet. And the way I watched this dude lie to the entire state of Wisconsin and turn people against each other, to the point where I was going to church on Sundays, happy Easter, on Easter Sunday, and I was hearing these people talk about, like, well, the teachers need to have their pay cut. They're sleeping under their desks. Meanwhile, I had watched my dad get up at 6 a.m. and work till 9 p.m. every single day, especially during wrestling season, my entire life. And these people at church are talking about how they're sleeping under their desks because that's what Fox News and Scott Walker told them. That's what the Koch brothers told them. So they turned the working people against each other. They turned the church communities against each other. They turned the private sector workers who had had their unions cut in the 90s and early 2000s in Wisconsin against the public sector workers who had their unions cut by Act 10 in 2008. And this doesn't have to do with Ronald Reagan. I just hate Scott Walker, and I have to talk about this every time I see him. They turned those people against each other and said, hey, private sector workers, your wages are low because of the public sector unions. Hey, public sector workers, your unions are low because of the private sector workers. Not because of us, not because of the corporations exploiting you and taking millions of dollars in profit and cutting teacher salaries and cutting healthcare benefits constantly and dismantling Medicaid like Scott Walker also did, because he's a piece of garbage who's a puppet for the Koch brothers. And if you want to read about this, the first article I ever did for Midwestern March was about Act 10 in Wisconsin and how it sent me on a mission. How this man, Scott Walker, watching him and you know, even as a kid growing up, seeing him as a pathological liar and seeing how disgusting these politicians are, right? And seeing how nothing that he said was true. Every step of the way, it was a lie. The people who were saying that he was lying were right. Everything that they said was going to happen happened. The debt shot up. The teachers' salaries went down, and Wisconsin is in a much worse place because of this man, right? He lied every step of the way about it. He said he was doing it for us. He tried to weaponize our compassion when he was screwing us for his Koch brother donors. Me watching that as a kid in Wisconsin sent me on a mission to take these people out of power. To take people like you out of power, Scott Walker. I hope you're happy that you created this Marxist Twitch stream with 95 people watching it right now. with, thousands of people watching every day. You have created a community of Marxists who are coming for you. We're going to take control of our country and we're going to make it a worker state. We're not going to let it belong to oligarchs and puppets of oligarchs like you anymore. That is the mission you sent me on when I was in grade school, and you screwed over my father, the hardest working person I ever met, while claiming to be in favor of the little man and in favor of hardworking people. You've never worked a hard day in your life. You are spoon-fed by the Koch brothers, and if there's an afterlife, you're going to burn forever in hell. All right, let's see what he has to say about Reagan, though.
He almost single-handedly resurrected and redefined the modern conservative movement. But he did much more than that. He resurrected and redefined America. If that sounds like an impressive feat, it was. And it's hard to imagine anyone other than Reagan who could have done it. Known by friend and foe alike as the great communicator, even Democrats conceded that no one could connect with the American people like Reagan. Whenever he went on TV, which was often,
which is so funny, because that's the opposite of Scott Walker. Scott Walker was so bland. He had no personality. Nobody really liked him. Like, even a lot of Republicans were like, I don't know about this guy. They actually had a recall election and almost kicked him out of the governorship in the middle of his term. So he was less good at deceiving people, unlike his hero, Ronald Reagan. Thank you, Bowl Thoughts. Really, really, really appreciate the $5 super chat. It looks like Bowl Thoughts video games. Are you a streamer, Bowl Thoughts? Everyone go give Bowl Thoughts a follow if they got some videos.
To promote a policy, he invariably swung the American people his way. When he explained something, it just made sense. Fittingly, it was a TV speech in 1964 entitled A Time for...
They did have a recall election. Yeah, that's what I meant by he almost got recalled. My family went and voted in it. It was, my parents voted Republican forever. They were Republicans before this happened, before Act 10 happened. And then after seeing Scott Walker, they were like, no, we're going to be progressives now. This guy is human garbage. Good job, Scott. You're doing great work for the Republican Party by turning people into communists. Fucking moron.
For choosing that launched his political career. He delivered it on behalf of Republican presidential candidate Barry Goldwater. Here's just one of his many memorable passages. No government ever voluntarily reduces itself in size. Actually, a government bureau is the nearest thing to eternal life we'll ever see on this earth. This was pure Reagan, a basic truth delivered with humor. Born in a small Midwestern town on February 6, 1911, Reagan honed his communication skills as a radio announcer and then as an actor.
Like, dude, you work for the government. Like, what the fuck are you talking about with this small government bullshit? You people are such liars. And I like how he says Reagan was in favor of small government, large defense budget. Like, yeah, the military is part of the government. You can't just say that because all you want the government to do is invade people and murder people for oil companies. And you got involved with the teachers' unions and had the government break them up. You had the government break them up. A union isn't part of the government. A union is the workers freely organizing together. And you took the government bureaucracy and dismantled it and pulled them apart so they can't organize against pieces of garbage like you. But, oh, we're in favor of no government, unless it's the government busting our unions or murdering Iraqi children for oil. You are a scumbag, Scott.
He was a genuine Hollywood star.
Someone clip out every time I insult Scott Walker in this and start sending it to him on Twitter. I want that piece of garbage to know that he inspired me to become a socialist, to become a communist, and I've made thousands of other people communists, and we're coming for him. We're coming, not, I mean, in Minecraft. We're not actually coming for, like, his life or anything, or to physically hurt him, of course. We're coming for his political power, his political office. Just so I don't get super banned. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member, Don Hammonds. Really appreciate that. Hope you enjoy all the benefits. Check the community tab for the Journal of American Socialist Studies download. Much love.
And celebrity for over 2 decades before he got into politics. Tall, broad-shouldered, and handsome with a golden voice, he was well-respected and well-liked by his peers. He was also seen as a natural leader. From 1947 to 52, he was president of the Screen Actors Guild, deftly guiding it through the blacklist era. In 1965, encouraged by the positive response to his A Time for Choosing speech, Reagan decided.
I don't even get what MAGA Trump Save America 2024 is saying, but they said it's been 8 years now. Give it a break. Didn't Trump run for office like 8 years ago now? And you're still like, MAGA Trump Save America 2024. Like, why don't you give it a break? Dumbass.
Decided to run for governor of California. He won easily. The victory immediately established him as a major figure in the Republican Party. By 1980, he was their overwhelming choice for president. That year, he soundly defeated President Jimmy Carter. The incumbent lost because his pessimistic approach to problem solving mirrored the justifiably sour mood of the country. The economy was going nowhere, caught in the double grip of inflation and stagnation. In contrast, Reagan, ever the optimist, offered a way out. It wasn't the American people who were to blame, he told voters. It was the government. Reagan would get it out of the way. He would lower taxes.
Which there's something to learn from that, right? There's something to be learned from every video, and even the worst of people like Ronald Reagan and Scott Walker, who are both, if I were to make a Watch Mojo top 10 worst people to ever walk the face of the earth, these two would be tied for first. They say it's not the American people's fault, because it's not, right? It's not the fault of American workers. Our economic hardship and economic stagnation is not their fault. They're the ones who create the wealth of the country. They just scapegoat the government, which is something socialists and communists can learn, right? Yeah, the government's bad, for sure. The government's taking you're exploited at work. The corporations are making billions and billions of dollars off your labor and then using that to lobby the government, control the government, who then takes, even the little scraps that you do get in wages and takes like 40% of them through taxes to send in Nazis in Ukraine, right? So it's not the American people's fault. It's the government's fault, and it's capitalism's fault. But capitalism, can be destroyed and turned into a different system if the American people, the working American people, rise up and take hold of their own country. So there is something to be learned from that message of it's not your fault as a working person. It's the capitalist ruling class and their government apparatus.
And cut red tape. He did both. The media dismissed his plan, calling it Reaganomics, but it worked. From 1982 to 87, the American economy, defined as GDP adjusted for inflation, rose an astonishing 27%, manufacturing 33%, and the median income by 12%. An estimated 20 million new jobs were created. All income classes and all racial and ethnic groups benefited from the Reagan economy. The dark decade of the 70s, a time in which it looked like America was in a terminal eclipse, faded away. It was, as Reagan put it during his 1984 re-election campaign, morning in America again. Every bit as transformational as his work on the economy was his approach to foreign policy, specifically the Soviet Union. It's easy to forget, but when Reagan came to office in 1981, Soviet-style communism appeared to be as strong, if not stronger, than American-style democracy. Whereas Reagan's predecessor had taken a we just need to get along approach, Reagan saw it much differently.
What an idiot. What an idiot Jimmy Carter was. He saw the U.S. kill 20% of North Korea's population because of their political system. And he said, maybe a country that's based on freedom of political expression shouldn't do that. Ronald Reagan came in and said, hell no. Let's start selling crack cocaine in black neighborhoods to fund the Contras, these fascistic Nazis in Nicaragua. So they'll murder the Sandinistas and use paramilitary death squads to massacre left-wing civilians. And that is what freedom and small government is all about, right? The only thing that the government can do is facilitate the sale of crack cocaine to your own citizens so you can fund fascists killing socialists in Latin America. That is small government, baby. Like the brain rot of PragerU videos. It's like anyone with an ounce of intellectual honesty would say this stuff that Scott Walker's saying, like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. I said in the same sentence that he's in favor of small government and a lot of defense spending. Right? I said in the same sentence that he's small government, but then he used our government he's small government and in favor of freedom, but he used our government to massacre anybody who tried to do their own political and economic system of communism. Like killing people who don't do what you want isn't freedom, and using the government to do it isn't small government. Duh, but they know they're liars. Scott Walker hasn't had a soul since he was probably 4 years old. Right? His dad probably told him, he was one of those dads who said, son, when you grow up, you better get used to wearing a suit because you're going to be wearing one every day to work when you use the American tax dollars to murder people for oil oligarchs. And Scott Walker actually had a presidential run. He was supposed to be one of the guys in 2016, but he got smoked by Trump because he has no charisma. And Trump, even though being corrupt and not actually being pro-worker and also being, I think, honestly bigoted in a handful of ways openly, he called out the corruption of the Republican Party in 2016. He would just point to Scott Walker and be like, you're a puppet of the Koch brothers, dog. Like in Wisconsin, you said you were going to cut the teachers' salaries and cut the teachers. Trump didn't say this, but he didn't really have to focus on Walker because Walker never got above like 10% in the polling. But you could have said, you promised to to fix the debt, and the debt in Wisconsin's at $20 billion. You're dumb. He was just not afraid to call out the other Republicans in a way that they'll never attack each other because they protect their own, which is the interesting thing and the fun thing to watch about the Trump 2016 campaign. If you go back and watch his debates with the other Republicans, it's like, this is amazing. He's just like roasting them almost like as if a socialist was up there. And then Trump got in office and didn't really do anything for the workers, of course, but populist demagogues.
He didn't mince words. In March of 1983, he called the Soviet Union an evil empire. The media and Democrats wailed that the phrase was reckless, but it was typical Reagan, simple, clear, and true. What else do you call a totalitarian system that had deprived millions of people across the globe of their freedom? When asked what his strategy was for fighting the Cold War,
how is cutting my dad's salary to the point where he now has to work at Coca-Cola all summer, in addition to teaching and coaching wrestling and volunteering a bunch of his time all year round? How is that bringing him freedom? How can you talk about freedom when you ripped freedom, economic freedom, which is, the only freedom that really matters? Political freedom matters, but mostly economic freedom. You ripped that from so many families, including mine, when I was growing up. And you want to talk about how it's really awesome that we funded the Contra death squads in Nicaragua, or, any of the other anti-communist actions that Ronald Reagan took that got millions of people killed. Those things are awesome because they brought freedom to people. Dude, you are in the business of taking people's freedom, of stealing freedom from the working class and giving it to the Koch brothers. That is what your legacy on this earth will be when you die. You want to talk about freedom. You are a joke of a man, Scott Walker. Wrestle me. Face me in mixed martial arts. I'm done talking to you.
Reagan replied, "We win, they lose." It wasn't just a glib line.
You take me on an MMA, I win. You lose. 5 seconds. Except I would make it last longer than that so I could listen to you whimper and cry.
He meant it. He
in Minecraft, of course.
Expanded the U.S. defense budget to unprecedented levels, in part to develop a ballistic missile shield his critics dubbed Star Wars. The strategy was to pressure the Soviets to try and keep up, which he knew they couldn't. He was right. They didn't have the money or the technology.
It's great that you discovered something you believe in, but Marxism? I'm going to tell you, my friend, Caedmon 1, what Che Guevara told people when asked this question. It's not my fault that reality is Marxist, my friend. I didn't go looking for Marxism. I went looking for the truth. Scott Walker, when he cut my dad's salary and busted the teachers' unions and gave a bunch of money to corporations, I said, this is strange. Let me investigate this. Let me find out what's going on in politics and get to the truth. And for years, I was a pro-Bernie progressive. volunteered with the Bernie campaign, was an intern with the Bernie campaign, met a lot of people and other political organizers, started reading political theory, started reading philosophy. And I found that Marxism, the theory of dialectical and historical materialism, and the theory of class struggle better explains politics and everything I had learned in 4 years of getting my bachelor's degree in politics than anything else I had ever read. Right? Marxism helped me make sense of the world and make sense of world governments that I had learned getting my bachelor's degree in politics. Right? So for someone to say, you know, it's great that it's something you believe in, but why Marxism? Like, why? Because it's unpopular. I'm not allowed to believe in something because PragerU has told you that it's stupid, or PragerU has told you it's evil. PragerU has never worked, or told you it's never worked. I mean, have you read Marx's Capital? Do you know what Marxism really is? If you read Marx's Capital, you would see the truth in it, and you would see how the Marxist method and the Marxist lens helps us understand the world and understand politics and economics and all these different things in their interconnection. It helps you understand geopolitics. Take it from someone who, like I said, I had my bachelor's degree in geopolitics. I studied it for 4 years. Nothing gets even close to explaining geopolitics like Marxism does, or like Marx does. And, you know, he was writing in the 1800s, but it's the method of dialectical and historical materialism, right, that helps us interpret reality. So, you know, it's not that Marxism is something I just believe in per se. Like, it's not a faith-based belief, right? If I found that something there are things that Marx said that were wrong, and I've pointed that out and criticized that before and said this is where we need to change and update our analysis, right? But it's less about Marxism and more about dialectical and historical materialism, more about the theory of class struggle, more about, you know, all the things that Marx said, like capitalism's tendency to accumulate, or capitalism's tendency to concentrate, or capital's tendency to incessantly grow and suck the lifeblood out of the working class, have been proven true by the years of history since Karl Marx. And the idea that socialist governments have never achieved anything is absolutely wrong. Look into my boy, Michael Parenti. Eddie and Jimmy versus Scott Walker in a handicap no holds barred match. Let's go. Midwestern Marx is promoting it. We're putting it on. Scott Walker and Henry Kissinger versus me and Jimmy with tables, ladders, chairs. Henry Kissinger's like 101 years old. So who knows how he's going to hold up when I hit him with a chair over the back. And then Jimmy jumps off the top ropes and hits him with the people's elbow, the working people's elbow. But that's what he gets for committing genocide in Cambodia, I guess. Should have thought of that before you did Cambodia. Do we even need to finish this video? Eddie origin story, easy. Yeah, if you watch my video about how I became a socialist, my path to the radical left, I'll talk in depth about Scott Walker, about everything that went on in Wisconsin with Act 10, about my parents taking me to the protests, about me finding Bernie shortly after that, and eventually that leading to me studying politics in college and finding Marxism and working for Bernie. But here's a full article I did about it. The first article I ever did for Midwestern Marx called The Scott Walker Effect. And the idea is that the Scott Walker effect was at first turning the workers against each other, turning the working class in Wisconsin against each other, the public and private sector workers, the people at my church community at the time. And then later, the Scott Walker effect was turning young people into socialists, turning young people into revolutionaries. Right, that's the ultimate effect that Scott Walker has. He showed a lot of young people like me not to trust politicians like him. And politicians like him are nothing but human tools of capital, who have no ethics or morals or principles of their own. They're nothing but puppets. It proved it to me, which is, you know, a Marxist idea that capitalists are personifications of their own capital, and the government under capitalism is a dictatorship of the capitalist class used for the suppression of the working class by the capitalist class. What a better example of that than the government busting up teachers' unions and cutting their pay to give a huge bailout to international corporations. But yeah, I mean, that's the Scott Walker effect. Turned a bunch of people to Marxists. Help a bunch of people see that Marxism is, or that reality is Marxist, as our buddy Che would say. TikTok algorithm has showed me many great things, including you. I'm glad to hear that. It's kind like the TikTok algorithm's crazy. I get annoyed with TikTok, obviously, because we've been banned 7 times. But it's like it almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter. Like, especially now that we got the YouTube and the Twitch really cooking. And, you know, we do these streams where I can meet with all y'all comrades and we can educate each other and you can tell me what you're reading and I can try and help you through certain readings. And Carlos does that too. And we break down propaganda. We break down, you know, we do political education on here and we get more in depth than I could on a TikTok. Right. I used to post more on TikTok, but now it's like when I have a good idea for a TikTok, I post it. And even if we don't have any followers on the account I posted on, it might blow up if it's a good, well-made video, you know? So yeah, TikTok's algorithm is crazy. Thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, I forgot to send the link to this. Oh no, never mind. I did post the link to the Scott Walker effect. I guess we can finish this video just because gotta finish what we started.
Premier Mikhail Gorbachev.
My inner bitch, as David Goggins would say, wants me to quit watching this video, but I'm going to power through.
Did all he could to pressure Reagan to drop it.
No, he didn't. This is just a lie. Gorbachev sold this country out to the Western imperialists. Like, what do you mean he did all he could to stop it? No, he didn't. Like this. Why even lie on this point? Why throw Gorba under the bus? This is like your boy. The capitalists should love Gorbachev and Yeltsin even more so, I guess.
Would not budge. To drive home his point, Reagan went to the Berlin Wall, a symbol of communist oppression, and delivered one of his most famous lines, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." By the end of the decade, a year after Reagan left office, the Soviet Union collapsed, an outcome no one could have imagined, except possibly Reagan himself. There are many reasons why this happened, but no one played a bigger role than our 40th president. We won. They lost.
Oh, you think so, do you, Scott? You think so, do you? Don't count your chickens before they hatch, you cocky motherfucker. Because guess what? Idiotic, selfish, greedy politicians like you have awoken an entire generation of Americans who are sick and tired of living under the boot of you and your lazy, spoiled, pampered losers in Washington. And we are coming for power and we are going to rebuild this country into something that's actually great. We're going to win. You're going to lose because our labor creates all the wealth of society. We are the mass of society. We are the majority, and you are a minority of ruling class exploitative shareholders who will lose your power soon enough. So enjoy it while it lasts, buddy. Enjoy it while it lasts because there are more and more fighters like me, more and more people who are willing to wage the class struggle and kick the bourgeoisie's ass like me, who are getting organized, getting educated, moving towards socialism and coming for political power in this country. So I would start crying about it if I were you, because your time is almost up. And as Karl Marx said, when our turn comes, we will make no excuses for, I won't finish that quote, but but I will never forget what you did to my dad, Scott Walker. We won, they lost. Maybe you won that battle, but I'm winning the war, baby. And me and my comrades are coming for you. I mean, coming for your power, not for you physically, of course, you know. Happy birthday. Thank you, Pranav Simha. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I suppose you know that the current China political regime is more ruthless on the civil rights movement, like union organizations, protest activism. That's not true. China's government adjusted based on the recent COVID protests. China has abolished relative poverty. You need to recheck your claims. I mean, if you want me to recheck my claims, you actually have to provide evidence, right? So all that you have here in this comment is general claims, general narratives that are usually given from Western capitalist-owned media outlets like Fox News and MSNBC about China. Right. So these are broad claims. There's no evidence. There's no data in your your chat to support these claims. And if we actually went into the data and we went into the evidence, we would find that, you know, the data supports my claims that China is more in favor of their working class, much more so than America and these capitalist countries. And the only reason that people think this way about China, the only reason Americans think this about China is because of the way the country and their people and their politics and their economics are portrayed in the capitalist Western media. So I have checked my claims on China. I've read a lot about China. China is probably the country I've studied more than any other. And if you check your claims using our video, is China Marxist, or the construction of modern China, we have tons of videos about this, going in depth about the economic and political construction of socialist China and their foreign policy. Watch our videos responding or reacting to Daniel Dumbrill. We have so many videos about China. I think you will find that some of these claims that you've made are not as truthful or ironclad as you maybe think they are. Yeah. Happy birthday, Eddie. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. One of our most consistent supporters. Someone I always love seeing in the chat. Always dropping great comments. Hilarious chat. Appreciate the birthday wishes. Anyhow, still happy birthday. Thank you. China cannot be described like actual socialist characters. So what you need to watch is our video about Is China Marxist with Vijay Prashad, where Vijay Prashad says, guys, we don't have a world to define. We have a world to win, right? Where China is moving towards a foreign policy of mutual development. They're abolishing relative poverty. They're building up their people. They're educating their people. They're combating imperialism. They're getting Saudi Arabia to stop genociding the people in Yemen, which is just a recent development that we learned about today, right? So if we just want to reject everything China's doing, if we want to reject the country that abolished poverty and is, you know, proving to be an economic superpower, or I mean, is growing as an economic superpower in a way that doesn't lead to huge wealth inequality, in a country that's moving away from the unipolar US-dominated imperialist global system, and a country that's helping to finance development in the global south and these countries who have been starved by the US for years. If we look at all of that, all these amazing things China's doing and go, no, that's not real socialism. Real socialism's what I have in this pamphlet from 1917 that says, you know, socialism is when the workers take power of or use the government to seize all the industry. Well, China's still got some private markets and some private industry, so they're not real socialist, even though they abolish poverty. Like, we're rejecting real material gains for people in the real world, in the global class struggle, because, you know, it's not real socialism according to whatever, you know, version of socialism that we invented in our heads, or that was conceptualized before a revolution actually came to power. In China pre-1949, or even pre-1917, before we had ever had a socialist experiment, right? Scientific socialism is about adapting. It's about constructing socialism based on the material conditions, which are ever changing, right? It's about class struggle leading to the end of capitalism. Capitalism sows the seeds of its own destruction, and then building a system out of that, a socialist system that leads to what China calls common prosperity, which is what they're trying to build and develop right now. Right. So it's not like socialism is achieved when we can check all these boxes, right? It's not like, okay, all of, you know, there's no more markets at all. Now it's real socialism, because there are always going to be markets, right? There's always going to be exchange of commodities in some shape or form. It's like, how do we structure those markets, though? Do we structure them as capitalist markets? Can there be socialist markets? And, you know, these are the things that Chinese Marxist scholars have been writing about and innovating about. But they're advancing and updating the theory of Marxism based on their practical efforts to build socialism, their efforts in the real world, right? So if we reject all that, reject what our comrades in China are doing, all the effort, intellectual and physical effort that they're putting into constructing socialism and, you know, a different geopolitical system that's not dominated by the Western capitalists, in favor of, and just say it's not real socialism. Real socialism is this, that, and the other, because I said so. We're rejecting what has been learned. I mean, we're rejecting what the struggle for socialism in the real world has shown us. And we're rejecting a country who shines as a beacon of, what could be in terms of foreign policy and economic development, and rejecting it and saying, no, that's not right. It needs to be like this. So that's why I support China. I know I've explained why I support China a million times, but it needs to be rehashed. And this stream, I've been super high energy. I've been bouncing around and yelling. And we've got a whole bunch of viewers up in the stream. So I'm sure there's some new people who aren't used to hearing my China rambles. So I'm always happy to go over it again. However, I really, really, really recommend people check out, if you don't think China's real socialism, check out Is China Marxist, which I will put in the chat for you right now. Is China a Marxist country? Just a 7-minute video. Or sorry, 17-minute video.
Socialism. And in the 70s, under Deng Xiaoping, that meant...
Wow, look at me in my old room with my old camera. That's interesting. Blast from the past. There's that in the chat. And then if you want to know about China's economic system, watch this. And if you want to know about some of the Western media accusations of human rights abuses in China, watch this video or any of our videos reacting to Daniel Dumbrill. This is one of the hardest I've ever worked on a video before. This one is Imperialism and the Construction of Modern China. So I really like to shout that one out because I put a lot of effort and hours and hours and hours of research into this video and editing. And it got a lot of views, but I could just do some stupid video about like Hassan and Vaush battle it out and Mr. Beast watches, and I could just mention like 3 celebrities and make it a 1-minute video of me saying nothing, and it would get more views than this because that's how the algorithm works. It's sometimes a little bit more about thumbnail and clickbait over substance, but this video has the substance. Yeah. Samuel Black, thank you so much for the $20 super sticker. If you have any question you want me to answer in return for your super sticker, let me know. Really, really, really appreciate that. Much love. Much love. Eddie, you should show them Articles 6 through 8 of the PRC Constitution. That's just as much in effect as Article 13 of our Constitution. These ultra feels no weight against what legally binds. Marxist Saw, I love you. You are always on top of it. Oops. And Marxist Saw also has a lot of good stuff about China on their channel if you want to see them. Except the COVID strikes were taken into consideration as what the people want. It doesn't really matter. The one-party government doesn't allow independent workers' unions. They address the workers' issues. And, workers' unions aren't necessarily like strictly socialist, right? Like unions are good. Unionize your workplace. But, in the U.S., unions have tended towards opportunism. The unions have rooted out communists out of their ranks. And there's a lot of union bureaucrats who just suck and side with the bourgeoisie. So, unions aren't the end all be all when it comes to communism. And yeah, they have a one-party state, but the government responded to the people's, protests, the people's uprisings. The government changed their COVID policy. Whereas compare that to Canada, right? What happened in Canada when the workers protested the COVID policies? Trudeau started shutting down their bank accounts, right? But China's the technocratic authoritarian country because they control the economy. Like in our country, if you rise up, if you demand something, if you want to change in the government, they'll shut your bank account down. They'll shut down your ability to feed yourself and your family. That sounds like a technocratic dystopian nightmare economy and politics to me, or a dictatorship to me, which is China is a dictatorship of the proletariat. So when the people rise up and demand a change in COVID policies, the policies change. America and Canada are dictatorships of capital. So when the working class rises up and demands change, they shut your bank accounts down and say that you're all fascists. Where's this at here? What are we looking for again? 6 through 8. This is going to be nice and long. Article 6 through 8. Shoot, I should have kept up. Little chat is glowing. It is. This chat popping off today. I knew it was going to be a good stream. I'm just so high energy. Article 6 through 8. I'm not going to lie, y'all. I recently got off a medication. One of them, just because I turned 26 and I'm off my parents' health insurance. I'm like, this will be a good time to quit this medication. And I feel freaking amazing since I quit it. Screw that medication. Spring feels good. It does. Maybe that's why. Article 6 through 8. Thanks, Marxist. Article 6. The foundation of the socialist economic system of the PRC is socialist public ownership of the means of production. That is, ownership by the whole people and collective ownership by the working people. The system of socialist public ownership has eradicated the system of exploitation of man by man and practices the principle from each according to his ability to each according to his word. I mean, imagine having this stuff in your constitution, written into the basis of your country, its founding documents. And it's so true. I mean, and the poverty alleviation, the anti-corruption efforts and the poverty alleviation efforts prove this, right? Because the U.S. and Europe and capitalism industrialized using slavery and by pushing the peasants into poverty. And there's mass accumulation of wealth at the top and mass accumulation of poverty and degradation at the bottom. Whereas China has now increased to the point where they're richer than the U.S., they're a larger economy than the U.S., and they've abolished poverty. And they didn't need slavery, and they don't need imperialism. They're not exploiting other countries. They don't have 1,000 military bases around the world. So clearly, the socialist economic system is based upon common prosperity and is not based upon exploitation because they've achieved the same economic growth, the same wealth as the Western capitalist countries, but they've done it while abolishing poverty, without sending a bunch of people into poverty and without slaves, which I wrote an article about slavery's role in the rise of global capitalism that was published on like Hampton Think and some other cool websites if you want to check that out. In the primary stage of socialism, the state shall uphold a fundamental economic system under which public ownership is the mainstay and diverse forms of ownership develop together. Oh, I wish everyone would read this. Marxist Saw, I freaking love you. I love you. You are the best. You are such a wise theorist and historian. This is such a great thing to know about and be able to read. Because yes, there are forms of private ownership. There are capitalists in China. There are Western investments, Western companies who have made money in China, but it's all regulated and controlled by the state, by the dictatorship of the proletariat. There are Communist Party members, and the Communist Party in China is 100 million members, which is insane to even think about. And they're extremely active in meeting the people's needs in politics and running the economy. They're sitting on the boards of directors of all the largest companies. Right. So it'd be like if Facebook was getting out of control in the U.S. and we could just be like, OK, the Communist Party is going to rein Facebook in. Facebook's accumulating too much wealth. They have to start paying for healthcare. All right. They have to start giving their workers this because the masses decided it. Or Zuckerberg is out of control. We're going to nationalize Facebook and we're going to take it into public ownership. That is the kind of power that the party and the state and the workers have in China. It's completely unimaginable in the U.S. in a dictatorship of capital where we can't even get freaking healthcare, where 40,000 people are dying every year because they don't have healthcare. And even our politicians like AOC, who are supposed to be left wing, are like, no, we're not going to fight for Medicare for all because we don't want to make other Democrats mad at us. We don't want to make Nancy Pelosi mad at us. Think of the relational harm if we push for universal health care. We can't even get the tiniest little half measures. Versus in China, if a company's accumulating and screwing people over and exploiting people, you can just be, we're nationalizing it. That's the people's now. Dictatorship of the workers, dictatorship of the proletariat. And that's why you need a people's dictatorship, a workers' dictatorship, and reformism, social democracy AOC, Bernie, the squadism doesn't work. Dictatorship of the proletariat works. Developed together and shall hold an income distribution system under which distribution according to work is the mainstay, while multiple forms of distribution assist alongside it. So look at that. Socialist distribution isn't everyone just gets the exact same amount of everything. Everyone gets a government-sanctioned toothbrush or whatever. Right? There are different forms of distribution, and how much you get from the system depends on how much work you put into it. Socialism. It's so cool. It's such a rational economic system. China is so cool. How do people not get this, dude? When I describe modern China to my friends who don't understand politics, I mean, they'll be like, aren't they dictatorship though? Aren't they, they'll have a few questions like that. Aren't they debt trapping countries? And then I explain to them how China's not. And I explain to them what China's doing for their people and how their system works, how their political and economic system works. And my friends are like, holy crap, I want to learn more about that. I want to do that. I literally had my drunk friend the other night asking if he could read Xi Jinping's The Governance of China. Because they're like, why don't we do this? I'm like, because we've been tricked into thinking that socialism's not in our interests. And we've been tricked into thinking that socialism's never done anything when socialism is hope for humanity. Base socialism, they can't handle the truth. Darn right, Jenny. Jacob, did you just send me a Razor Fist video? Sorry, I'm going to continue with this. Dude, I haven't seen Razor Fist since I was in 8th grade. I know who Razor Fist is. Yeah, I can react to that at some point. I'll at least mark it down to react to it later. React to that at some point. Sorry, that distracted me there.
Nazis.
Razor Fist is so annoying. So where are we? Article 7. The state sector of the economy, that is the sector of the socialist economy under ownership by the whole people, shall be the leading force in the economy. The state-run banks, the state-run steel industry, right? All the major sectors of China's economy are run by the state. So people saying that the only reason they're rich is because of capitalism are just coping so hard. Because if the U.S. decided to the government decided to seize control of the banks and seize control of the steel industry and start trying to develop them in a way that's beneficial to the American workers, all the capitalist ideologues go, no, capitalism. You're infringing on capitalism and our freedom to exploit, our freedom to hoard oil companies and oil wealth. You're destroying capitalism. But when China does it, it's capitalism, and everything good in China is because of capitalism. And everything bad is because of socialism. States will ensure the consolidation and development of the state sector of the economy, which obviously has been happening. Rural collective economic organizations shall practice a two-tiered system of both unified and separate operations with household contract management as its basis. Rural economic cooperatives, producer, supplier, and marketing, credit, and consumer cooperatives are a part of the socialist economy under collective ownership by the working people. See, credit. There are people who say China has credit, China has banks, China finances development in other countries. That means they're the same as that means they're capitalist. That means they're the same as the Western banks like US Bank and Goldman Sachs and stuff. No, they're just offering credit. They're offering financing within a global capitalist system in a socialist manner. So they're offering financing to countries in Africa with 4% interest rates so that they don't trap these countries in debt. And they're building what we call equity, which means infrastructure or development that makes more money for that country, that continues to function productively. Whereas the U.S. will just build whatever, oil drills or mines or whatever they need to exploit this country and extract their wealth and bring it back to Wall Street. And they won't allow the economy to develop in a diverse way, and they won't set up any infrastructure that continually produces wealth for that country. China says, no, we want to build these countries up. We want to build equity or assets for them so that they can be trade partners with us, so that they can develop themselves and in turn help us develop and trade with us. It's a much more rational way of going about things. And they've done it through financing. And since World War II, the US has built this global financial system with all these different banking arms that stem from the IMF, the World Bank, and banks like Goldman Sachs that I was talking about earlier, that allows them to dominate global finance. So, like when Chile had a Salvador Allende won election and came to power in the 70s, Richard Nixon famously said, "Make the economy scream." And IMF and World Bank financing went from 200 million to 2 million. Okay, that makes it extremely difficult to run an economy and to follow through on your campaign promises. If the banks that dominate the global financial system just cut you off, which now North Korea is the only country who's not a part of the IMF and World Bank at all. So what China's doing is looking at the global financial system set up by the Western capitalists and countering it, right? Saying we're still going to do banking. It's not like we're just going to burn all the banks to the ground because we want to do real socialism or whatever. We need to have pure socialism with no banks. They're saying we're going to do financing and crediting in a socialist manner. We're going to set up equity. We're going to set up capital that creates more wealth for these countries to combat the US financial system. So it's China adapting Marxism, adapting socialism to changing material conditions and to the global system. And in response to imperialism, which the number one goal of the Chinese Revolution has always been to consolidate support of the people and combat imperialism, because they know imperialism is the number one threat to socialism, communism, and common prosperity. Wow, happy birthday, comrade. Here's to 1,000 more, brother. Thank you, Esther Bar. Everyone follow, or Esther Bach. Everyone follow this comrade on Instagram. They have some amazing Instagrams. They're friends with our buddy Marius Trotter. I watch pretty much everything that they put out on Instagram. They just sent me 50 pounds or 50 of a currency that slips my name that I don't understand, or maybe that I don't know the name of right now. Is that pounds? I don't know, but thank you so much. That is a huge super chat. And I think with that, I think we've done it, folks. I think this is the most super chats that we've ever gotten in a Midwestern Marx live stream. So congrats to everyone. What an amazing birthday gift for me. Thank you for supporting our project. I promise this will go into more revolutionary education. And, if I need like medical care at some point, this will help keep me going for 1,000 more years. So pounds. I nailed it. It is pounds. Sweet. Okay, good. Cool emotes, Les Cassawaries. So thank you so much, man. And again, really follow this guy on Instagram. Great stuff. Unless Esther Bog, unless you don't want people to follow you on Instagram. But I assume you do. I know sometimes you post some edgy stuff that could get me in trouble or get us canceled or whatever. I don't care. I love your Instagram. You are pro rich. No kidding. Except all the money goes towards Midwestern Marx stuff. But I mean, it also helps keep me and Carlos alive. But we mostly try and invest the money y'all give us as much as we can in furthering the project. I mean, keeping us alive is furthering the project, to be fair, especially since I got fired from academia for being a communist. But yeah, y'all know what I mean. Y'all get what I'm saying. Where was I? Credit consumer cooperatives are part of the socialist economy under collective ownership by the working people. Working people who belong to the rural collective economic organization shall have the right, within the scope prescribed by law, to farm cropland and hilldales allotted to them for their private use, engage in household sideline production, and raised privately owned livestock. So this is one of the really interesting things about China's revolution and how they've brought prosperity and abolished poverty in the rural areas. Because during, of course, there was basically no industrialization when the Chinese Revolution happened. They were an agricultural, peasant-based economy, and the rural areas were extremely poor. Like, the fact that they've been able to abolish poverty in the rural areas is incredible, and it's why organizations like the UN are studying China's poverty alleviation efforts so much now. It's like, how did you bring prosperity and development to these impoverished areas? Well, one of the things that they did was gave private property to people in the rural areas. not private property as in capitalist private property, but property where these people can farm and grow livestock and grow food that they themselves eat, that they use to feed their families, the means of subsistence. That's been a huge part of decreasing poverty in the rural areas in China. Ingenious thing to do. And that's something that is that capitalism doesn't allow. And you see that in the formation of capitalism and the development of capitalism and the transition from feudalism to capitalism with the process of what Marx calls the process of enclosure. So there are these peasants working on the land, and they, create what they need to survive. They grow the food or livestock that they and their families need to survive. And a huge portion of the surplus goes to the lord, whoever the landlord is, or the king, or whatever. So as the bourgeois class, as the capitalist class starts to take power from the landlords and from the feudal class, and we transition from feudalism to capitalism, all of that land starts to be bought up by capitalists and, either owned by them and used for whatever profitable investments, or, used for capitalist agriculture, machine agriculture, which forces the peasants off the land and into the cities in search of work. Because the manufacturing factories and the industrial jobs, the more capitalistic manufacturing jobs, are now developing. So all these peasants who were agricultural workers under feudalism are pushed into the cities to be factory workers under capitalism. And all the land that was manned by those peasants that they themselves owned and used to grow their livelihood is taken by the capitalists, so that they now control the means of subsistence completely. They control the food, the water, the shelter that you need to survive, leaving people with only one option: sell your labor to a capitalist or starve or die, be homeless. So that's what's called the process of enclosure. And in that process, all the land becomes the private property of capitalists. So that land can only be used to make profit for the capitalists. That land is only worked by wage laborers or capitalist farmers when, in order to make profit for the capitalist farmers. In China, they say, no, you can have that land and you can have a garden, you can have livestock, and you can feed your family and you can feed your community. Direct communal production in the rural areas. Ingenious. It is absolutely real socialism, what China has done in this area. And it's like a direct move away from capitalism, right? Capitalism pushes peasants off the land, seizes the rural farming land, gives it to the capitalists for private property. China says, no, this property is going to belong to the workers and they can produce their means of subsistence. And capitalism doing that allows the capitalists to hoard the means of subsistence. China says, no, the workers can produce their own means of subsistence, so they're not completely dependent on the capitalists. They can produce on their own what they need to survive. And when I read stuff like this, I want to move to China. How would you convince socially and economically conservative Americans to hold favorable views towards China? Counter peril propaganda. Great question. Thank you for the super chat, Chaya. You just have to know your stuff, right? You have to know what's going on in China. You have to know how to debunk the myths, and you have to be able to explain stuff like this. Like I was saying the last time, me and my wrestling buddies from college, my old wrestling buddies, were like having some beers and hanging out and telling stories. They know I'm a communist. They, make jokes about it all the time, but a lot of them get a few beers in and they're like, everything makes so much sense. Capitalism is bullshit. What do we do? How do we actually change the system? That's the main question most of them have, is how do we actually do something about this? They all recognize the system's broke, right? It's just how do we actually go about changing it, because both the political parties are such shit. That's when you talk to them about socialist communist organizing. But like the reason I talked about my wrestling buddies is one of them is a farmer. His dad's a farmer, small town Midwest farm people. And the small farms have been being bought up by folks like Bill Gates, right? The huge portion of the farmland in the Midwest is owned by Bill Gates. He makes millions and billions of dollars in profit off of farmland in the Midwest, despite never probably stepping on a farm in his entire life. Totally absurd, irrational, shows how ridiculous our system is. And the idea that like the capitalists are innovating everything. Like, yeah, I'm sure Bill Gates has made a whole bunch of innovations in farming. Like, isn't he the Microsoft dude? So he explained to people what Chinese agriculture looks like compared to our agriculture. Guess what, my farming friend? You and your dad are going to own your own land, right? And you and all the small farmers are going to own your own land, and that's going to be protected from speculators like Bill Gates and Wall Street speculators, right? And you're not going to be having to work dusk till dawn to avoid bankruptcy, because of the competitive market system where these small farmers are competing with these giant mega corporation farms owned by Bill Gates, right? Instead, you produce what's needed for your community, and you produce what's needed for yourself, and the party and the party cadres who are in charge of your area, and the government takes care of you and makes sure that things are going well because you're a farmer and you produce food, and we recognize that that is vitally important for society, and it shouldn't be based on the market system, and it shouldn't be controlled by Bill Gates. And we can manage it in a much more rational, healthy, and equitable way if we do something similar to what China's done, right? So you compare our system to China's. You talk about China's poverty alleviation. You talk about China's lack of imperialism. You just got to know your stuff, really, which is why I put so much effort into analyzing China and educating about China and researching China myself. Reading this particular article makes me think about how 50% of the agricultural proletariat are undocumented and can be placed in ICE camps anytime. Bill Gates owns all his ag land because he owns computer factories, literally. Right. He didn't even innovate anything for Microsoft. If you really look at it, he didn't invent a damn thing. He owned a bunch of computer factories that made him a bunch of money. And now he owns a bunch of farmland, including in Africa. And I did a whole article about that. And yeah, a whole bunch of the agriculture. I grew up in a very rural town, and actually dated the daughter of like one of the biggest farmers in our area. And it's there was a huge Mexican population or immigrant population at my school because that was a lot of the workers, and there was definitely racial tension that would go on. But yeah, it's like if they start to get organized or start to get serious about organizing, these armed bodies of the state like ICE would come in and crack down on them. And ultimately that's what it is. It's a way to control labor and suppress the working masses. That's what institutions like ICE are. And socialists should absolutely embrace #abolish ICE. Fuck ICE. I have so many friends from wrestling and just growing up in that community who are just the hardest working immigrant families. And to hear people say, well, you shouldn't have come here illegally. I hope ICE puts you in a cage. Like, either you're a psychopath and the biggest piece of crap imaginable, or you've never met an immigrant before, because they're almost always the hardest working people in the freaking country. And, our food supply is dependent upon their labor, as well as other industries like concrete that are necessary. These capitalists who own all these farmlands will never run out of food. They have no inclination to maintain ag consumer needs. When the proletariat seizes manufacturing, ag consumer needs seize it too. Yes. And we say goodbye, McDonald's. Goodbye, all you terrible fast food places like KFC. Maybe not goodbye. We can still have, we can still produce junk food in moderation, right? But it won't be shoved down your throat. It won't be marketed to you. Organic food won't only be for the rich who can afford to shop at Trader Joe's or Whole Food, right? Consumer needs in terms of food production and nutrition will be taken into account by the farmers and by the producers of food who are doing it in a more communal, socialistic way. Great point, Marxist Saw. Marxist Saw, do you want to write a book for our website? Whatever you want to do, you will publish it. You're the man / woman / whatever. Youth engage in household sideline production and raise privately owned livestock. The various forms of cooperative economic activities in cities and towns, such as those in handicraft, industrial, building, transport, commercial, and service trades, shall all be a part of the socialist economy under collective ownership of the working people. The state shall protect the lawful right and interests of urban and rural collective economic organizations like trade unions and stuff, which is, someone earlier was saying that China cracks down on trade unions and worker organizations more than any other country, when in the US, it's they can fire you for trying to unionize or trying to organize. Even like the UK and European countries have way better union protections than us. It's way easier to unionize. We're just now seeing, the first Starbucks and Amazon unions and stuff, which is great. But America's unions have been absolutely dismantled, whereas China has legal protection for unions written into their constitution. So it's not even really comparable, China to the US. And she'll encourage, guide, and assist the growth of the collective sector of the economy, which is what's been happening with the anti-corruption efforts and poverty alleviation efforts. The collective socialistic part of the economy has grown, while the privatized, more profit-based part of the economy has shrunk, has been cracked down upon, has been seized in various ways by the party, by the socialist state. So, yeah, I freaking love China. If for anybody who's still on the fence about China, just read this. Obviously it's biased, right? Of course, every book is biased, but this will tell you what China's actually trying to do, right? This will show you that the stuff you hear about China in the Western media ain't it. It's lies, right? China's intentions are not what the Western media tells you their intentions are. They're trying to construct socialism in a system of common prosperity and a trade policy of mutual development. And, if you read, this is to steal from Caleb Maupin, if you read about Marxism, or if you study Marxism in the university, they're going to show you like Derrida, Horkheimer, Foucault, all these sort of, Frankfurt or French school, or, people who were influenced by that school, which means influenced by the CIA. Read Gabriel Rockhill's work if you don't know what I'm talking about. They're going to have you read that pseudo-Marxists who really take Marxism and make it liberalism, Slavoj Žižek, things like this, right? And they look at Marxism in a very abstract way, in a very philosophical way, and they don't look at it as a science of revolution to be enacted. They look at it as, maybe a method of analysis at best, and even then, it's one that they're going to change whenever it's convenient for them, and whenever someone calls upon them to actually be anti-imperialist or actually support a socialist country, and they'll say, no, not real socialism, blah, blah, blah. But if you read this is about a country who's actually trying to apply Marxism, who's trying to build a socialist country in the real world and develop common prosperity and mutual development in the real world, and what they've learned from that, their successes and their failures, right? That's Marxism. That's Marxism, looking at the material, the working or the struggle of the working, toiling masses in the real world, and their struggle to construct a new system, and saying, what worked, what didn't, what should we change going forward to make things better? What are our long-term goals? What are our short-term goals, right? What did we learn from our last economic plans, 5-year plans or whatever, and what do we change going forward? That is Marxism. That is materialism. Let's observe how class struggle continues under socialism, right? Let's continue, rather than do what the Soviet Union did and funnel money into socialist political movements around the world and try and influence countries' politics. Let's have a policy of complete non-interventionism and just help countries develop their industry, which will help develop their working class, which will combat imperialism and U.S. And Western finance capitals' efforts to exploit these countries and prevent their industry from developing. And ultimately, these countries will move towards socialism on their own, sort of naturally through class struggle, because we actually understand class struggle as something objective, not something as abstract that needs to be forced upon other countries. That is Marxism, right? Looking at the Soviet Union, what they did right, what they did wrong, and adapting it for modern times. Actually applying Marxism, acknowledging when you make mistakes, right? And that's what the Western left has such a hard time with. And this is why Carlos wrote his book, Marxism in the Purity Fetish, or the Purity Fetish and the Crisis of Western Marxism, which you can get right now at midwesternmarx.com, to critique of the American left. We look at these countries and we say, they made a mistake there, not real socialism, or they made a mistake, I denounce them, they're not bad. Like, of course they made mistakes, right? Socialism is an experiment. Marxism is materialism, learning from the real material world in which humans are inherently flawed. We're going to make mistakes, and that's how we learn, and that's how we get better collectively and individually. So to dismiss any country who's not pure, who's not perfect, you're going to dismiss every country, right? That's not Marxism. That's pseudo-Marxism or liberalism, or I don't even know what it is, idealism, right? This gives you a better sense of what Marxism actually is. And if you watch the video I did about the construction of modern China, which this is mostly about modern China, but I go back into the era of Mao, into the era of Deng Xiaoping, and talk about what they were discussing. There were so many debates within the party, within the Communist Party of China, and every step of the way, they were saying, okay, this is what the Soviet Union did with their agriculture. Looks like this is what worked. This is what didn't work. Why didn't it work? Okay, there was U.S. imperialism here. Okay, how can we do this different? How can we do our agricultural system different than the Soviet Union and, do a lot of the good things they did, increase food production and literacy for the rural workers and all the amazing things the Soviets did. But how can we make it even better? And how can we avoid some of the mistakes? And then, later on, they would learn from themselves. The party under Deng Xiaoping was like, okay, let's look at the Great Leap Forward. Let's look at what happened under Mao. Right? This is what they did. This is where they made some mistakes during the famine. All right, we should tweak this. We should allow a few more private markets here, but we should control those private markets, only allow them to be within special financial zones, which will be controlled by the party. Constantly tweaking and what Vijay Prashad calls recalibrating the socialist construction and the role of the state in that construction. That is Marxism. That is the construction of socialism. Marxism is not an abstract theory, right? Marxism is a way to interpret reality and struggle for the dominance of the working class and a society that works for the working class and works for humanity rather than for capital. Socialism is a society for itself. Capitalism is a society for capital. Simple as that, kind of. It's more complicated than that. Oh, my lower back. Actually, y'all aren't going to believe this. My lower back feels so much better than it has the past few days because I had my roomie put together this chair for me. And he told me when he did it, he's like, I think I might have did it wrong, bro. He's like, I would double check that chair. And I'm like, oh, whatever. I'll check it eventually. I'll fix it eventually. I said that for like over a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know. However long I've had this chair. And I've been, just recently, I'm like, oh, my back hurts really bad as I'm training for this upcoming tournament. And I feel like the chair is making it worse. I feel like the chair just kept leaning forward and I was hunched over all the time. Turns out the chair was on backwards. So the other day I finally unscrewed the chair. I'm like, I wonder how much of a difference this is going to actually make. It probably won't make that much of a difference. And then I put the chair on the right way and I sat down in it. And I was like, oh, the heavens opened up. It was like I was reading Lenin for the first time. I'm like, this is a revelation. If you put your chair on the right way, it doesn't hurt your back. It give you sciatica. Holy shit, who knew? I mean, everybody probably knew that except me, but I'm lazy and I had my chair the wrong way for a year because my really nice roommate tried to do it for me. And I didn't heed his warnings when he told me the chair was messed up. And he'd do some mobility training. I will, Don. Thank you. Your back stretched finally. Absolutely. And so it has my chair has a lower back pad, which is part of the reason I bought it. It has this lower back thing on it that gives your lower back support, and it wasn't working at all. I'm like, what is the point of this thing? It wasn't working because my chair was backwards. Now my lower back is this thing helps keep the curve in my back. It feels good to lean back over it. By the way, my mom and dad told me they were watching my stream this weekend. This is obviously my birthday, so I went out. Well, I didn't go out to eat with them, but I met them. We ate some food at my aunt and uncle's house. But my mom was like, early on in your stream, you were talking about your yerba mate. My mom's really into health and fitness. And she's like, and I was really interested. I'm like, oh, that's cool listening. And then you actually got into the topic that you were covering and started talking about politics. And and then I found it a lot harder to pay attention and listen. She's like, oh, I wish he would keep talking about his tea. So, I guess maybe I should do more tangents about my chair, or about wrestling, or about my tea. I don't know. Does anyone want to see a supplement tour? Anyone want to see the supplements I do before we call it a day? Eddie, how is your medical insurance going to work now? I ask because I don't understand not being without medical here in Cali. Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't have health insurance right now. I have applied for Medicaid, and I'll probably either look for a job with healthcare or my current job prospects, the current things I'm working on, because it has to be something that gives me time for Midwestern Marks, right? Which is rare. But I think what I'm going to do is run my own wrestling club, like a private club, not technically associated with any schools, kind of loosely associated with the school, actually. But I won't say which school because I don't want to dox myself quite yet. I'm sure it'll happen eventually, and people will call for me to be fired again, but whatever. So I'll probably just get Medicaid and then pay for some health insurance premium. I don't need much. I'm pretty young and healthy and take supplements every day and eat nutritiously because I have to for wrestling. I exercise 2 to 3 hours a day. So, I mean, I guess I could get injured, but I have athletic trainers who will take care of me for free just because I know them through wrestling and have befriended them over the years. If it's minor. I also have a really good massage therapist, acupuncture, sort of homeopathic guy who isn't health insurance doesn't pay for him anyways because he actually works and he's not just trying to push pills on you. So health insurance won't actually pay for anything that works or doesn't make money, but the post office got some good benefits. I thought about that actually. I really thought about working at the post office. I applied. My aunt is working there now and she likes it. Bookshelf tour, please. All right, we'll do it. Thoughts on Mike Tyson, who has a Che Mao tattoo, hobnogging with Trump at UFC? Yeah, that's lame. But I don't know. Trump showed up at the national tournament for wrestling this year, and I'm like, I probably would have gone down and got a picture with him. And I mean, that shows the appeal of Trump, right? I do not like the guy, especially his more bigoted views are what really, really irk me. And the fact that he sold out the working class, of course. But the fact that he would even go, he was the first president, I think, ever to actually go to the national wrestling tournament, right? He knows his base. He knows where the working class is at. He knows what the working class, at least what a lot of the working class, likes to do, where they are, what their consciousness is. He knows his base pretty much. He knows he has a lot of wrestlers who support him. And he shows up there, and it stops wrestlers from moving towards a commie like me. But it also it builds support for him. It builds his upcoming campaign. So as dumb as Trump is, there's stuff to learn from him. Him showing up at UFC events, by example. And yeah, Mike Tyson read Mao and read Che in prison. And that's where he got into them. So I'm in Medicaid due to ASD. I can have healthcare as long as I don't work more than part-time. That's what's so shitty about our welfare system. It's like if you want real benefits, you have to freaking meet all these stipulations that encourage you to work less and then make less income. Any advice for a comrade trying to get in better shape? It depends. I would say mix things up, right? Mix things up. So for one, don't try and be perfect. Don't be like, I'm going to cut sugar and gluten and dairy for the rest of my life. It's probably not realistic. That's going to take an insane amount of willpower. Your body's used to consuming those products, so it's going to freak out on you. And then what happens is people say, I'm quitting sugar, and then they, eat something with sugar on accident, or they break, and then their whole diet goes to shit. Oh, I messed up. Now I'll just keep eating it again. Right? You got to cut yourself some slack. You got to be like, I'm going to cut down on sugar, right? If you drink soda, I'm going to get rid of soda. If you have an addiction to eating candy at night, like I did, I'm just going to start eating fruit at night. I'm going to replace it with a healthier form of sugar, or fructose in the form of fruit rather than candied processed food. But ultimately, decreasing sugar and decreasing processed foods are key. Don't, if it helps, think of it in an anti-capitalist way. That's what I do. Every time I see a McDonald's or a Wendy's and it's tempting me, like, you dirty capitalist trying to feed me your garbage, I will not eat it, and I will be strong, and I will take you down. So just don't beat yourself up. But if you eat at Wendy's, okay, do better tomorrow then. Don't be like, oh, I ruined it, and my whole life is ruined. I ruined my diet. I better eat at Wendy's every day this week now because I messed up once. Cut yourself some slack. The other thing is mix up your workouts, right? Like, some people just do all cardio because they just want to burn fat, right? They're like, I'm not trying to get huge. I'm just trying to burn fat. Like, don't look at it like that. Look at it as I'm trying to be healthy, right? I'm just trying to be healthy. And, it's not all about aesthetics. It's not all about being able to see your abs or just burning fat, right? You want to be a healthy, well-rounded individual. And lifting weights is good for you. Running is good for you. Cardio is good for you. There are tons of different ways to do cardio. There are tons of different ways to lift weights. So mix it up. Lift weights one day, do cardio the next day. For me, it's a lot of two-a-days. And I also can throw wrestling in there, which gives me a lot of different variety. But I'm constantly mixing it up. I'm never, ever, ever doing the same workout 2 days in a row or the same workout twice in a day. The other thing you can do is a sport, right? Wrestling will always keep me in shape so long as I'm doing it. It will always keep me in shape. Because it's a mandatory thing that I've signed up for, and I know I'm not going to quit. So it's going to hold me accountable, and it gives me a team of people and coaches who hold me accountable. It's a little expensive, which is annoying, but you could join a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. You could join a Muay Thai gym. You could find some sort of martial arts pursuit that is, one, going to help you get in shape physically, but two, it's going to help you build self-control. It's going to help you build discipline. It's going to help you build community and meet people. It's going to help you educate people about socialism, because trust me, combat sports people are just begging for the communist message. They only drift into being conservatives or reactionaries because that's what is available to them. If they could be socialists, a lot of them would. I had every single wrestling tournament I went to this year. It was incredible. Every single one, there was at least one wrestler, someone different every time, who came up and said, "You're Midwestern Marx," right? Like, there are so many wrestlers and combat sports athletes who are prime to be recruited to the movement, the struggle for socialism, or they're ripe. I don't know. There's fertile grounds there, as Carlos would say, for organizing. So join a gym or something like that. Find workout buddies to keep you accountable, and and then don't sleep on supplements. Don't sleep on supplements. Supplements can help if you can afford them. It upsets me that most people don't have time to cook all their meals. It's so much healthier and tastes so much better. It's so sad, yes. And I'm terrible at cooking. I've just started to learn, but I'm like, this is an art. And it's a beautiful art, and it's an art that everyone should know, because you can add so much flavor and variety to your food, and it's fun, right? Once you fall in love with cooking and once you find it fun, your eating gets healthier, because you spend more time preparing a meal. There's more ingredients, there's more nutrition. You think about it more. And it's easier to control your portions rather than just go grab some processed food and shove it in your face hole. You're actively thinking about what I'm going to prepare. You're grocery shopping and you're putting it together. But most people don't have time to do that under capitalism, which is why the Soviets ate the same amount of calories as Americans, but their meals were more nutritious in general, because they had more time to actually cook for themselves. I do karate once a week. Used to be more, but y'all know, yeah, it's tough. And that's a good workout. I'm sure it is. Yeah. I've never done karate, but I can imagine. Any martial art, really. Any martial art that's not like some weird idealism, right? Make a Marxist analysis before you join a martial arts gym, right? It needs to be materialist. The people need to be learning things that actually work, that would work in a fight. If you walk in and there's some guy like throwing people around with like Dragon Ball Z They're pretending to be like an airbender and sending people flying around. It's a scam. And that is idealism in martial arts. But I'm not going to go to the gym soon, but my food self-control is lacking, even trying to count calories and shit. Yeah, I wouldn't, like, I count calories when I'm getting down, like I'm 2 weeks away from a weigh-in, right, where I need to descend my weight a certain amount every day. So I'll count calories for that, and I'm burning like 3,000 calories a day, the amount I'm working out. So it's like not that hard. But I wouldn't get too obsessed with the calorie counting. Like, it's calories in, calories out is the only way to lose weight. Yes. But I would focus more on, inputting nutritious food, replacing any non-nutritious processed sugary food that you eat with something healthy, finding alternatives. Like I replaced sugar and candy at night with sugar and fruit at night. Fruit, has sugar in it, but it's not processed. It's healthier for you than sugar. And that really helps my weight because my body can burn that easier and turn it into energy. Whereas, sugar and candy can give you super quick energy for like 2 seconds, but then it's going to go away and there's no nutrition. Your body's going to store it as fat. So I would just worry. I would more so than like counting calories, especially if you're not someone who's like severely overweight and like needs to lose weight now, or you're going to suffer like serious health problems or even death. Or if you're like, pre-diabetic and you really need to get it under control and your sugar intake, like that's a different thing. And maybe you should work with a doctor. But if you're like fairly healthy already, you just want to get in better shape, just start changing your habits, because it's all about habits, right? Now that I'm in the habit of eating healthy, it's not even an option, right? I'm not even thinking about going to the gas station and getting candy after this, right? It's just not an option. I've gotten in the habit of going and eating apples in my kitchen when I get hungry at night. So you build in as healthy habits and they stack on top of each other. And then you just, live a healthier lifestyle overall, and burning fat and building muscle is going to be part of that. The other thing I've been doing every day is going outside in the morning and getting direct sunlight in my eyes. I stare at the sun till I go blind. Just kidding. But as the sun is rising, it's hard to do this with a job, especially depending on what time you work. But I go out and I just like bathe in the sun. I walk around barefoot in the grass, which is good for your back and your spine. And I get photons in my eyes, which it's been shown that light photons in your eyes resets your circadian rhythm. And it gives you more energy, and it gives you like a 2.5% energy and dopamine spike that's sustained throughout the day. And then it helps you get to sleep at the end of the day. And when you start your day with something like that, it makes it easier to make healthier choices the rest of the day, because you don't want to mess up what you already started in the morning. Plus, I just promise it's going to make you feel so much better. And then you're going to want to stack those, things that make you feel better. If that's not enough, or if you're someone who feels like you're addicted to ADD medication or something like that, and you need more dopamine in your brain, go outside and stare at the sun, and then take a freezing cold shower or an ice bath for 3 minutes. I also do sauna. I've been doing sauna every day because I'm training. But I would probably do sauna like 3-4 days a week outside of training. I'm just trying to do it every day right now for recovery, but you can do it every day too. It'll decrease your chance of dying young by like 60%. Whereas if you do it 3-4 times a week, it's like 20-30%. But the ice bath will increase your dopamine 2.5% too. So like an Adderall pill, an ADD tablet, you pop it and it increases your dopamine 10%, but it's just a spike. You're super focused on dopamine and then you crash, right? And then you think, I just want that pill, right? That pill becomes your source of dopamine and focus. Whereas if you do the sunlight staring, the photons in the eyes in the morning, combine that with a cold shower, you're increasing your dopamine 2.5% with each, which brings it to 5 times, the dopamine that you normally have. So it's, half of what you would get from an Adderall pill, but it's completely natural. It's completely sustained throughout the entire day. It's not something that just blasts you once and then you crash. There's no crash. And in fact, it'll make it easier to sleep at night. And it's free, right? So the pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare system as it stands now is like, just take our pills, right? But there's all these lifestyle changes that you can do to make yourself more healthy and happy and not need the pills and more productive. That was a long rant. I'm like grinding right now in terms of health and fitness because I've got this big wrestling tournament coming up, the US Open, where I'm going to win another one of these stop signs. See those little trophies? We call them stop signs because they're octagons. Actually, I think some of them are hexagons, but so I have a lot to talk about in terms of health and fitness right now. So I appreciate the chance to talk about it a little bit. Here's my bookshelf. Let me make sure I don't have anything that I want to hide from you guys on here. Here's my bookshelf tour. Where did Jacob say? Where is your message, Jacob? Bookshelf tour. So here's the bookshelf up top. I should do this for TikTok. Well, there's my face. That's from Nationals. They made cardboard cutouts of our face. The national tournament, I qualified that year. And when we were at the tournament, they canceled it for COVID. So we were already there. We were already down to weight, getting ready to wrestle. The tournament was to take place the next day. And within 24 hours of the tournament starting, they canceled it. And the NCAA didn't give us extra eligibility because all they care about is money. So that was devastating. And that cardboard picture of my face will always remind me of that, but I also love it. Midwestern Marks banner and otter that actually my ex-girlfriend gave me. I just like it. I'm not hanging on to any memories there. I just like the otter. What do we have? And then this is I All-American twice in college. 2-time Scholar All-American, 2-time Athletic All-American. Scholar All-American was for like GPA plus winning a certain amount of matches or something. We had to have like a 3.2 GPA. I don't know exactly what it was, but this is for when our team got second place. That was the year I got fourth at nationals. And then the second year I All-American personally, I didn't get a trophy because that was the year the tournament got canceled. And they just gave us All-American status if you were ranked in the top 8, which I think I was seeded 4th or 5th that year. But I got 4th at nationals the year they actually had it. This is some currency a comrade gave me. See the Ayatollah Khomeini there. That's from Iran. I got 2 from Iran. And then this is a Bolivar, dos mil bolivares, 2,000 Venezuelan bolivars. So Banco Central de Venezuela. See there's like a bird on it. And then indigenous Venezuelan on their currency. This I painted also with my ex-girlfriend. So I swear I'm not hanging on to any feelings. I just happen to do a lot of cool art projects with her. There's that. And she happened to give me an otter that I like. I have the Hisoka Funko Pop that my buddy gave me. Shout out Dakota, my boy. I love you. Got the Journal of American Social Studies 1 and 2, Carlos's new book, Carlos's old book. Here we got a Minnesota Viking light-up lamp. I also have a little Uzi Vert light-up lamp because I just love buying $20 light-up lamps on Amazon. And I bought this for my brother, and I bought one of these for my roommate as a Christmas gift, and I was like, I want one too. So yeah. And then here's all my theory. I haven't organized this in a while. I used to keep it super I've organized it like intensely before, but theory generally over here, imperialism. The Capital series is not here right now. I've got it over there with my pre-workout. History books, Vijay Prashad, Parenti, Vijay Prashad, Dan Kovalik, Vijay Prashad. I have like 20 VJ books now. Naomi Klein's Shock Doctrine's okay. A lot of history here. Theory, Rosa Luxemburg. The New Class War by Michael Lind. Interesting book written by a conservative, but it's got a good class analysis. Moving down here, this is books I got in college, or like miscellaneous books that I got for Christmas and stuff. There's a poetry book. There's some Hegel down here. A lot of my books that I read aren't on my bookshelf. They're over there where the Capital series was behind me, because I like to keep them out so I can grab them and read them every day. Moving down, I have this book that I've talked about on TikTok a lot about some lady whose family owned an oil company in China, and the revolution took her slaves and her family's mansion. And that's the book my mom gave me when I became a communist, to give me an alternative viewpoint on communism, and it just made me more communist. A budgeting book. Dave Ramsey's an idiot, but his budgeting book is pretty good, actually, kind of. It's also kind of stupid because he tells you to never have credit. And then my uncle, who knows I'm into politics, got me all the Bob Woodward books, or like a huge stack of Bob Woodward books. He's like a journalist who writes about the president in different White House administrations. This is an ear cleaning tool that I have to have because of my cauliflower ear, because wax gets built up and they get plugged. My left one had been plugged for like 2 weeks recently until I just got it unplugged yesterday. This is a freaking blackhead remover that came with the earwax thing. It's like a blackhead vacuum. I don't know. It doesn't really work. But I got it for free with the earwax remover. And these are all my supplements. I've talked about these on TikTok. Nootropics, great for your brain function. A2AM, these are amazing stimulant-based fat-burning pills that I take when I'm cutting weight, like right now. Dopa Munuka extract, which helps when you're trying to have dopamine in your brain and do homework. Magnesium, ginkgo, B12, St. John's wort, iron, zinc, stuff that's good for your gut microbiome. And then I have all of my wrestling passes. Well, I have a jar full of coins, all my wrestling passes from the years that I use as bookmarks. Bunch of notebooks that are filled up completely with notes, and then a few that are empty. I wish I had more that were empty. And then that's just got miscellaneous like pens and things in it. I keep most of my pens and stuff over there. But yeah, that's my whole bookshelf. It's not as organized as it could be. I need to reorganize it soon, but yeah, hope you all enjoyed the special birthday bookshelf tour. With that, I'm probably going to call it a day on this stream. I've been going pretty ham. It seems like Eddie's Apothecary. Literally, my mom is super into health and fitness and vitamins. Like I said, usually I have vitamin C that I take every day too. I'm just out of it because I take so much of it. But we used to call my mom the witch doctor because she had so many vitamins. That's something I recommend for your health too. Look into natural stuff that you can do before you can do. Feel bad for this fucking oil baron lady. That's literally what it was. I don't know. I lost track of what I was saying. Look at what you can do naturally before you take pills. And I also have obviously LED lights. That's another part of the bookshelf. I was gonna ask if you like nootropics. I love nootropics. Screw Adderall. Screw Vyvanse. Nootropics are where it's at, and they don't wreck your brain. And I've realized recently I'll take breaks from nootropics when I don't have that much to do. Like yesterday, I literally just didn't take anything and played Final Fantasy all day. I also worked out like for 4 hours, so I can't say I played Final Fantasy all day. But other than that, didn't take much. And then when I took the nootropics today, I was like, woo, like my tolerance had gone down. So you can also experiment with stuff like that with the supplements, getting down your adjusting your tolerance and taking breaks from stuff and using it when you need it. I've been getting better at that stuff lately. 100 base nootropics for sure. I love lift mode. I'll have to try that. Does anyone else take nootropics? Nootropics are placebos, in my opinion. Could be. FF10 is the game. Yes. So, we got another super chat. So I guess I'm not going to end quite yet, but I'm going to end this stream here soon. But tonight, later on, we will continue with our playthrough of Final Fantasy X. We've been giving a Marxist analysis of the game while we play through it with Titus and Yuna and Kimari and the whole squad. So if you're interested in that, it will be on twitch.tv. I know that type of content isn't for everyone, of course. So please don't feel bad if you're not into the gaming content or whatever. Like, I'm just offering this to offer it so we can invade the Let's Play and gaming sphere of content with Marxism, just like I did for MMA a while back with our MMA account that got banned by TikTok. But that'll stream on twitch.tv, and it will also, we've been going up in subscribers on the Eddie Liger Smith Gaming. It will also stream live here. We can now live stream for the first time from Eddie Liger Smith Gaming, and it will be archived here. So if you're into that, we can... Just the cool people. Yes, only cool people can come over to Eddie Liger Smith Gaming and let's play with us. Lift mode sells a lot of good nootropics. Oh, gotcha. I've been using Gorilla mode lately. That More Plates, More Dates guy. He has a YouTube channel. I've been using his stuff. But yeah, if you want to play Final Fantasy X with us, come join us here. I'm constantly interacting with the chat, constantly talking to you guys, getting your input. And then I've played this game a bunch, so I can go through it pretty fast. I'm not like getting stuck. Well, actually, I got stuck in this episode, so never mind. I also have to name that episode. I forgot to name it. Okay, I got to do that after this. So yes, come join us for that. Make sure you subscribe to this. I'm trying to get it off the ground, so any subscribing, sharing, commenting, liking of these videos, I'm really, really going to appreciate. Gaming is the future of Marxist entertainment. It's playing Final Fantasy games again has made me want to make a Marxist RPG. It's made me want to whip out like RPG Maker and make the Midwestern Marx game. But maybe I'll talk to some people who are programmers, or maybe if there's like an AI video game programmer in the future. Happy birthday, you handsome bastard. Sorry I'm late. Some funding for the movement. Please don't be sorry that you're late, Just Haw. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for funding our revolutionary education, funding the movement. I promise to use every last drop of the funding that y'all gave us today on revolutionary organizing. This has been an awesome stream. I planned to only do an hour to 2 hours. Now we're here at 2 hours and 40 minutes just because y'all have been amazing. The chat has been on fire today. I feel like I've been on fire today compared to usual. I feel amazing right now, like I said. So shout out to good nutrition and caffeine. Yeah, Just Haw, as well as the other super chatters today, broke our record for Midwestern Marks. We've never gotten this many super chats before. So happy birthday to me. But, you know, under communism, it's not my birthday. It's our birthday. So solidarity, everyone. I will see you on the gaming stream in like an hour and a half if you're interested in that. If not, we will see you on the next political stream. Much love. Organize your workplace. Organize your community. Educate yourself and others on theory. Solidarity. I love you. Midwestern Marks.